The demigod finds himself swarmed, small, grayish figures clawing and striking from every direction, their attacks landing with sharp impacts. Still, they press their assault, their numbers overwhelming as one leaps through the air, aiming for a critical blow. But with a sudden, explosive surge of power, the demigod unleashes a blinding burst of white-blue energy, throwing the attackers back in a violent shockwave. His eyes blaze with fiery orange light, crackling with raw, untamed magic as he prepares to unleash his full might. A colossal explosion of blue and white energy erupts from his form, engulfing everything in a devastating wave of destruction. The chaotic magical energies linger in the air, swirling amidst the dust and debris of the aftermath. Amidst the swirling chaos of shattered ice and rock, the immense magical energy he unleashed still crackles, leaving a desolate landscape in its wake. From the shadows of the destruction, a group of grotesque humanoid figures emerges, their forms bulky and menacing as they survey the devastation. One of them, with glowing red eyes and tentacles around its mouth, snarls, questioning how a mere human could dare to challenge them. Its voice filled with a mix of anger and confusion, it demands to know the identity of their powerful adversary. A single foot steps forward onto the shattered ground, and a confident voice replies, "Haven't you heard of me?" The figure emerges fully, cloaked and powerful, declaring himself the apostle of justice, who punishes the wicked and brings order to the world. His eyes glowing with an intense blue light, the powerful mage reveals his true name, humanity's strongest 9-star archmage, Lucas Trauman. The humanoid attackers recoil in disbelief, one of them shouting, "How dare a measly human rival against me?" To which Lucas dismissively replies, "What an outdated mindset." With a wide, confident smirk, Lucas reveals his ultimate ambition. When someone like him achieves everything he wants to accomplish, he starts wanting to rule the world. With a confident smirk, Lucas points a finger forward, declaring, "See you soon." Below him, two small, grotesque figures scoff, one of them sneering, A petty human thinks he can win against us." Yet, even as they speak, an intricate magic circle erupts around Lucas, its golden light illuminating the chamber. His eyes glowing with fierce determination as he finishes his thought, "That's..." The air shimmers, charged with raw magical energy, concentrating into a blinding golden orb in his outstretched hand. A devastating explosion of light and force erupts, engulfing the area in a brilliant, destructive golden aura. The sheer power of his spell tearing through everything in its path. The golden explosion from Lucas's spell rips through the air, sending one of his opponents tumbling helplessly through the radiant energy, while the other is violently contorted by the sheer force, his form twisting unnaturally under the immense pressure. Looking down at the chaos he has wrought, Lucas's voice rings out, confident and chilling, reminding them that his power is far greater than they could ever imagine. He then reveals his true identity, declaring himself Lucas Trauman. Suddenly, a swirling blue vortex erupts beneath the first opponent, pulling him inexorably into its depths, a look of utter shock frozen on his face. The second opponent, witnessing this terrifying spectacle, recoils in horror, a desperate cry escaping his lips. His face contorts in a primal scream of terror and pain as the reality of his situation dawns on him. The blue vortex expands, reaching for him next, his body stretching and distorting as he's dragged into the swirling abyss. With a final, desperate struggle, his arm vanishes into the shimmering blue light, leaving nothing but faint particles in its wake. A powerful entity, known only as the demigod, emerges from the ethereal darkness. Its voice echoing with ancient authority, it speaks of itself as the god that humans praise, but Lucas Trauman, defiant as ever, immediately retorts that he has never offered such reverence. The demigod declares Lucas's actions will be judged as the unbridled order, only for Lucas to fiercely proclaim that he will be the one to pass judgment. Mocking the very idea of order and judge, Lucas dismisses the demigod's authority, questioning if a world under its rule could ever be worthy of trust. The demigod acknowledges Lucas's power, admitting his skills have surpassed human limits, yet it condescendingly reminds him that, in the end, he is still merely human. A chilling laugh escapes the demigod, its mockery echoing through the void. Suddenly, an invisible force crushes Lucas, forcing a pained cry from his lips as his body contorts under the immense pressure. He struggles, realizing with horror that he cannot gather any mana, a consequence the demigod deems the sin of opposing God. His glowing eye reflects the crushing reality, a power that which is not permitted to humans. The demigod's voice booms, asserting its divine status as the very existence humans praise and applaud as God. But Lucas, defiant as ever, retorts that he has never applauded nor praised such a being. Such defiance, the demigod declares, is a deadly sin, and as Lucas writhes in the absolute darkness of despair, he will doubt endlessly. He groans under the immense pressure, the demigod's words echoing, doubt and doubt and doubt again. The torment continues, promising that eventually, he will curse his own existence, forced to return to the void and befriend eternal suffering. The gnarled, ancient form of the demigod looms, its power forcing Lucas to regret his very existence. Lucas's face contorts in agony, surrounded by spectral eyes, as the demigod declares what befalls humans who defy God. His hand clenches, glowing with faint blue energy, as the demigod concludes its pronouncement, "Is my very own punishment." Suddenly, the scene shifts to the present day, where Lucas is seen falling backward, hitting a wall, his clothes now different. Standing alongside another man, Lucas confronts a monstrous threat, demanding to know if they think he and his companion are beggars, and why they would bargain with such worthless monsters. Even in his youth, Lucas possessed a sharp tongue, pitying the empty pockets of those who sought to oppress him. His words, however, only provoked a swift, painful response, as a hand clamped down on his hair, yanking his head back. The bully's grip remained firm, while the academy's strict rules meant Lucas, despite his talent, was powerless to fight back. The relentless tugging continued, as his tormentor leaned in, boasting that he would have kicked Lucas out long ago if not for their shared lineage. Lucas's face twisted in pain, enduring the humiliation. Another bully, observing the scene, remarked on the primary aggressor's persistent cruelty. The primary bully simply offered a chilling smile, revealing his true, malicious nature. But Lucas had reached his limit, and with a sudden burst of defiance, he lashed out, sending two of his attackers sprawling with a powerful kick. He retaliates with a swift, powerful punch, sending the first bully reeling back. Without missing a beat, he follows up with a kick to the second bully's gut. A guttural cry escapes the larger bully as Lucas's next kick sends him sprawling across the ground. The first bully, attempting to recover, is met with another powerful kick that sends him tumbling away. As one of the bullies pleads for mercy, the orange-haired leader steps onto his head, silencing him. He presses his foot down with cruel intent, ignoring the muffled pleas. Then, turning his attention to Lucas, the orange-haired bully reminds him of their upcoming practical magic class. A smirk plays on his lips as he adds that Lucas was paired with him. With a cruel grip, he grabs Lucas by the hair, promising to be gentle. Still pinned to the ground, Lucas endures the bully's cruel words, who vows to make this a day he'll never forget, demanding payment to protect their reputation. The bully's foot descends, promising that from tomorrow, Lucas won't be able to walk properly. With a sickening crunch, his hand is brutally crushed. Still pressing down, the bully advises him not to scream too loud and to head home early. Lucas's free hand clenches, a silent, trembling testament to his inner turmoil, finding the situation utterly annoying. A pained groan escapes him as he lies there, defeated but not broken. Suddenly, a sharp, internal shift occurs, a resounding kung, as a singular, burning desire ignites within him. I want to be stronger. His eyes blaze with an intense, electric blue light, reflecting his absolute resolve. The flashback fades, and Lucas, now in his archmage attire, stands alert, a faint blue aura surrounding him as he questions if he just heard something. His eyes slowly flutter open, a dazed expression lingering on his face as the echoes of the past begin to fade. The last vestiges of the memory dissolving, he finds himself back in the present, the world around him still a blur. As his vision clears, he observes the desolate landscape, a massive, twisted structure looming in the distance. He mutters, "Amalgamations? Oh well." The grotesque formation appears to be a fusion of organic and inorganic matter, a silent testament to the strange forces at play. Finally, Lucas stands tall, his archmage form fully manifested, glowing with an ethereal blue light as he declares, "It's about time, my mind." Lucas Troman, his tattered cloak billowing, gazes up at the desolate sky, a profound weariness etched onto his face as he wonders how long it has truly been, a few hundred years, or perhaps even a few thousand. A soft sigh escapes him, the weight of countless years pressing down. The world around him is a testament to divine wrath, a ruined landscape under a perpetually stormy sky, the punishment for defying a god. In the oppressive darkness, a single thought echoes, "Is this real?" He yearns for strength. His pale blue eyes, now filled with a quiet resolve, reflect on his past self, realizing he had no idea how truly weak he once was. A sudden shift, and Lucas looks down, a flicker of confusion crossing his features. He stands in a grand, ornate hall, confronting a towering, robed figure. "Father," he questions, "why did you just—" The figure's voice cuts him off, cold and absolute. "I said, you are to disappear." The demigod's voice booms, filled with disdain, as he continues to berate Lucas, demanding that he no longer dirty their name. Lucas remains silent, his gaze cast downward, a quiet storm brewing within him. The ornate hall seems to mock his submission, as the demigod questions his very existence. He kneels before the towering figure, who continues to press him, asking if he trusts a weakling, if he is truly weak, and if he has had enough. The demigod's voice hardens, declaring that Lucas is not permitted to be weak, and that the Blake House tolerates no cowards, deeming him incapable of growing stronger. But as the words echo, Lucas finally lifts his gaze, a flicker of defiance in his eyes, and internally asserts his true identity, "I Fry." The demigod, oblivious to the shift, continues his condemnation, stating that Lucas has never truly appeared in his life. A sharp glint appears in Lucas's eye as he counters the demigod's words, thinking, "I have never appeared in your life either." His eyes, once filled with despair, now burn with a quiet resolve, a tear tracing a path down his cheek as he internally declares his independence from the demigod's judgment. The scene shifts, revealing the quiet, unassuming exterior of Frey's house, a place that holds more secrets than its humble facade suggests. Inside, a study filled with books and scattered papers speaks of a life dedicated to knowledge, yet perhaps also to isolation. On a desk, amidst the scholarly chaos, a framed photograph captures a younger, blonde Frey, a stark contrast to the current reality. A different figure, with long, dark hair, stands by a window, his back to the room, a heavy silence hanging in the air. His thoughts are grim, a single word echoing the depth of his despair. He looks down, a cup held loosely in his hand, his expression lost in contemplation. His grip tightens around a pill bottle, the weight of his decision palpable. A wave of terror washes over him, a profound dread he has never known. As the realization hits him, death is truly terrifying. As his mind reels, the insidious voice of the demigod whispers, sowing seeds of doubt, again and again. The hooded figure looms, its glowing eyes piercing the darkness as it declares that eventually, he will doubt his very own existence. Lucas Troman clenches his jaw, enduring the psychological assault. Suddenly, a defiant roar escapes him, questioning the very nature of God and order itself. The demigod continues its taunts, asking if he truly believed this absurd world was the only one that existed, before stating its understanding. Tears well in his eyes as he grits his teeth, lamenting the world's cruelty and the unknown force manipulating it, yet finding a new, unyielding resolve not to give up. With newfound determination, he finally names his tormentor, the demigod. He screams, his face contorted in a raw display of defiance, vowing to endure this hellish torment for as long as he possibly can, if it means achieving his goal. The internal struggle intensifies, a violent urge to strike back, even as blood splatters from his mouth, a physical manifestation of his inner pain. His eyes, wide and piercing, reflect a sudden, sharp realization. A guttural question escapes him. What's this? As he grapples with a new, unsettling sensation. A dark, clawed hand reaches out from the blinding light, threatening to engulf him. For a moment, despair threatens to consume him, a whisper of surrender echoing in his mind. Let's die. But then, a surge of clarity, as he questions the very nature of his torment. Who is taken? Who is losing consciousness and dying? His gaze hardens with renewed resolve, accepting his fate without blame. Even as a shadowy hand chokes him, Lucas defiantly confronts the unseen entity, acknowledging his position as the one left behind, yet questioning its true nature. He plunges into a dark abyss, his mind consumed by a crushing weight of self-reproach, the thought echoing that it's all his fault, that he was born without the very wings he needed. Tears stream down his face, his voice cracking with despair as he laments, "It's my fault, I can't get stronger." As he continues to fall, a sudden, challenging question pierces through the haze of his self-pity, forcing him to confront the truth. Is that actually true? Meanwhile, from an unseen vantage point, a group of observers watches, one remarking, "Sure, that makes sense," while another questions, "Is he truly part of the heavenly host?" A third observer adds with a hint of disdain, "The disgrace of the heavenly host." Back in his torment, a sinister smile spreads across Lucas's face as he retorts, "If I were you, I would have kicked the bucket ages ago." His form now glowing with a fierce, pale blue aura, he stands defiant amidst a throng of shadowy figures, challenging them with a powerful roar. "Don't make me laugh. Who are you to judge me?" His eyes burn with renewed resolve, the pale blue light intensifying as he faces down his unseen critics. He lies motionless on the cold ground, his body limp and vulnerable. A faint sound of cracking echoes, as if something within him is being forcibly broken. Shadowy, spectral arms emerge from the darkness, encircling his form and lifting him helplessly, as a voice declares that a seal is being released, questioning how such a thing could happen. From another perspective, a gentle hand reaches down towards his prone figure, a memory or thought echoing. "As soon as that child entered my consciousness, it was like warm sun rays shone down on me." His face, streaked with blood and grime, shows the toll of his ordeal. He slowly pushes himself up, his eyes fixed on the figure before him, a single word escaping his lips. "Who?" The gentle hand reaches out once more, softly touching his forehead. A single tear escapes his eye, reflecting a profound mix of pain and understanding. Looking up with newfound resolve, he whispers, "If I can be reborn someday, then I hope." The spring of power has been released, and he who was once the strongest now manifests in a new, ethereal form. A powerful being with glowing blue eyes and wild, dark hair, his muscles rippling with raw energy. This reborn self is adorned with mighty wings, a testament to his profound transformation. Suddenly, he jolts awake, a sharp pain registering on his face, his glowing blue eyes wide with confusion as he finds himself back in a physical space. He extends his hands, a silent question hanging in the air, his dark hair now falling around his face. A small, glowing blue particle drifts past his face, his eyes still burning with an intense, otherworldly light. A gasp escapes him, the realization of his new state washing over him. He pushes himself up, his bare feet creaking against the wooden floor, standing tall once more. Turning towards a window, he looks out with a newfound resolve, murmuring, "I'm finally." A voice echoes in his mind, urging him to turn back, to abandon the path he has chosen, a path that has spanned 2,000 years. Yet, the memory of Fry Blake, the world's weakest human, lingers, a stark reminder of his past self, a life he can no longer return to. Now, as he gazes at his reflection, a new truth settles within him. He is Lucas Trauman, the world's strongest mage. The two identities merge, a powerful declaration echoing in his mind. From this moment forward, the past self is irrevocably intertwined with the present. Standing by the window, he acknowledges the fusion, understanding that this new existence, this freedom, was a gift from the very entity he now embodies. With a decisive motion, he pulls back the heavy curtains, allowing the morning light to flood the room. Gazing out at the world, a profound promise forms on his lips. He will grant others the power to soar. His hand rests gently on the window pane, a silent contemplation of the vastness before him. From his elevated position, he surveys the landscape, his gaze sharp and filled with newfound resolve. He looks on with a resolute gaze. As his hand rises, pointing towards the heavens, as if addressing the very entity revered as a god, the demigod. From a window overlooking the night, he vows to return, promising that his vengeance will not be long in coming, and that he will definitely get back at them. Finally, he turns, a knowing look in his eyes, and offers a parting remark, "See you soon." Under the pale glow of a full moon, a quiet village sleeps, shrouded in the cool mist of night. Leaving the slumbering homes behind, a lone figure moves away from the village, a faint, ethereal blue glow emanating from his form as he heads towards the dense forest. His body now fully engulfed in a vibrant, crackling blue aura, he struggles with the limitations of his current vessel, acknowledging that he cannot wield his full power within Frey's body. The mystical energy he emits permeates the very air, causing the misty swamp around him to shimmer with countless glowing particles. A pained expression crosses his face as he pushes against his limits, the realization heavy that his true strength remains locked away. Standing resolute amidst the trees, his aura flaring, he declares his immediate goal, to master divine energy and fortify his body to collect even more. His eyes remain closed, but his jaw is set, a fierce determination etched onto his features. Turning his back to the village and facing a dark, ominous path, he knows he must recover his original powers as swiftly as possible to confront the demigod. His inner turmoil manifests as a monstrous, shadowy form, its eyes burning with a fierce, primal red, as he declares his unwavering resolve to surpass his former strength. Raw, untamed power surges around him, a chaotic dance of azure light and crimson shards. He plunges through the swirling energies, his own eyes now glowing with a brilliant, controlled blue, a stark contrast to the raging power he seeks to master. The monstrous shadow within him still writhes, its red gaze a constant reminder of the fury he must contain. Dark, formless currents of power churn and coil, threatening to overwhelm him. Yet, he stands firm amidst the maelstrom, his long hair flowing with the currents, as the blue energy begins to coalesce around his form. A voice, perhaps his own ancient consciousness, cautions him against recklessness, reminding him that this moment is the culmination of 4 millennia of waiting. With closed eyes, he focuses, the internal voice urging him to shed his impulsive desires and subdue the burning rage that threatens to consume him. Under the silent gaze of the full moon, the struggle subsides, for now, a temporary truce in the battle for ultimate power. He resolves to do what he can for now, the weight of his past and future pressing upon him. Deep within a verdant forest, sunlight filters through the canopy, illuminating a hidden clearing. There, a figure with long, flowing white hair and a powerful, muscular build stands ready, his bare chest revealing a body honed for battle. His eyes remain closed for a moment, a brief pause before the storm. Then, one snaps open, revealing a piercing, pale blue glow, radiating raw magical energy. Blue particles of mana begin to swirl around his arm, gathering into a potent aura. The powerful aura envelopes his entire form as he declares, "It appears that I must deal with this." Meanwhile, a sharp, animalistic eye with a brown and orange iris watches from the shadows, its gaze intense and calculating. He doubles over, a guttural sound escaping him as his body violently rejects something within. A thick, purple-black substance spews forth, accompanied by a wretched retching sound. The impure blood that had been mixed into Frey's body was being forced out, leaving dark stains on the ground as he continued to purge. His mouth contorts in a desperate effort, determined to expel every last trace of the corruption. As he vows to vomit it all to the last drop, a vibrant blue aura begins to pulse around his form, signifying the cleansing. The blue energy intensifies, swirling violently around him, his cries of pain turning into roars of raw power. The swirling energy forms a powerful vortex, completing the arduous purification process. Meanwhile, in a bustling town square, a young woman and a man stroll casually, surrounded by the daily life of the city. The woman turns to her companion, asking, "David, how come you're here so early today?" A man named Jack greets David, questioning his early arrival. David, in turn, asks him why he hit a bird the previous day. Jack explains he had taken many sleeping pills and ran away, prompting David to wonder aloud if he meant sleeping pills. Later, David stands alone, observing a notice board that displays a system error message while considering his lunch plans. Meanwhile, a radiant, winged figure, glowing with golden light, ascends through swirling, ethereal clouds. The majestic figure, with large, feathered wings, continues its ascent, bathed in brilliant, otherworldly light. Suddenly, Lucas Troman appears disoriented and disheveled, questioning aloud just how much he has weakened. His pale blue eyes reflect a deep sense of exhaustion and concern. He finds himself standing in a desolate, blood-stained landscape, a voice echoing that all of this exists within a young boy's body. His face is bruised and bloodied, a stark reflection of the ordeal he's just endured. Outside a grand academy building, a female figure observes his disheveled state, remarking on the troubles he's clearly faced, though she implies her own burdens are far heavier. Overwhelmed by a sudden, intense hunger, he can only think of food. He soon finds himself in the bustling Westrad Academy trainee canteen, a vibrant scene of students and food. Whispers begin to spread among the students. As they wonder aloud if he's been starving for an entire week, their voice is a mix of curiosity and concern. Meanwhile, two other students enthusiastically devour their soup, exclaiming over its deliciousness and the surprise of finding Korea's soup here. The whispers continue, with students trying to identify the newcomer, eventually confirming his identity as Fry Blake. Waiting, he muses, has become his new hobby, as he stands before a grand, arched window. His golden eyes reflect a deep contemplation, a slight frown creasing his brow. Meanwhile, a young woman with long brown hair complains loudly, declaring that she shouldn't be among these children at her age, for she is a great goddess, while another student sighs in exasperation. Lucas, however, knows he has no choice but to endure this new reality, a gap of 4,000 years now bridged by Frey's memories. He must first learn how this world functions, then he can proceed in his own way. His thoughts swirl into a dark, abstract vortex, glowing with faint red particles as he processes the immense knowledge. From above, he appears as a solitary figure, walking down a long corridor, his blue robes flowing behind him. His gaze remains sharp, his resolve firm, as he reminds himself not to rush this new beginning. He steps through the doorway, the sound of the door sliding open echoing in the quiet hall, only for a sudden crash to follow as someone tumbles backward. The student, caught off guard, falls helplessly through the air, his body momentarily suspended before hitting the ground. Lucas Troman pauses, observing the aftermath of his entrance, a quiet assessment of the situation unfolding before him. Meanwhile, the fallen student, David, lies on the floor, looking up at the commotion, while other students nearby continue their conversation, seemingly unfazed by the minor incident. As Lucas takes in the room, he notices a group of students gathered, one of them shouting about tickets, frustrated that someone can't count properly. The student continues to vent his anger, exclaiming that he's told them countless times to bet correctly, his irritation palpable as he questions the others. Ignoring the gambling, Lucas steps over David, his foot passing just inches from the fallen student. Moments later, Lucas is seated at a desk, while David, still on the floor, sits beside him, a silent tension hanging between them. David looks up, his expression a mix of annoyance and confusion, wondering what just happened. He observes his new surroundings, a thought forming in his mind. Finally here, buddy? A young man with golden blonde hair looks down, his expression unreadable, as a voice calls out to him, asking if he's a friend. Nearby, another young man with light brown hair watches him intently, his eyes glowing with a faint, unsettling red. He then addresses the blonde-haired man directly, calling out, "Oi, Fry." With a demanding tone, David insists, "Gimme 10 lunch tickets." He continues, explaining his reasoning with a pointed finger. "I lost my tickets because of you, you know? That's why you should pay me back." As Fry looks down at him, David challenges, "Who are you to hit my head like this?" The surrounding students wonder if the two are friends. David's face contorts in anger as he concludes his thought. Nope, probably not. A crimson glow ignites within an eye, a strange symbol swirling in its depths. As David, still seething, presses his hand against Frey's face, demanding to know why he trembles. Frey's expression twists in discomfort as he retorts, questioning if his fear is truly due to a giant like him. A guttural sound escapes him, revealing sharp fangs, a primal growl building in his throat. David, undeterred, slams Frey's head down with brutal force, his aggression escalating. Then, with a sudden, explosive impact, Fry retaliates, throwing David backward with astonishing power, sending him flying through the air. The crimson glow in his eye intensifies, the symbol within burning brighter. Nearby, students like Jack stare in disbelief, one wondering aloud if Fry wasn't just in the classroom, while another asks if they're the only ones who saw it. A female student watches the unfolding scene, her expression a mix of shock and confusion. He looks down at the ground, a quiet realization dawning on him. Oh, so it's them? Another student, observing the confrontation, recalls the words that had been spoken, "The ones who made you guys run, young." David, his face contorted in anger, lets out a frustrated tch. He grabs Fry by the collar, his voice laced with disbelief. Geez. Those eyes just. Before he can finish, an unseen force slams into him, sending him reeling backward with a violent impact. A surge of brilliant blue energy erupts from Frey's hand, tearing through the air. David is launched through the air, propelled by the raw power, leaving a shimmering trail in his wake. He continues to fly backward, a second powerful impact echoing through the space. David is violently thrown backward, his body arcing through the air as he crashes into the ground. The impact sends dust billowing around him, leaving him dazed and disoriented. Blood trickles from his mouth, a stark testament to the force of the blow. Frey stands over the unconscious David, a silent observer of his own devastating power. From the stunned onlookers, a voice questions, wondering why he was sent flying and what exactly happened to him. Jack, observing the scene, confirms with a worried expression that David is unconscious. A thought crosses Frey's mind, a hint of regret for the extent of his actions. Suddenly, a voice echoes in his mind, a powerful entity with long, gray-purple hair and glowing blue eyes, informing Frey that this display is a special service for him, the strongest great mage of humanity, Lucas. A sharp crack echoes through the classroom as Frey walks away, leaving David unconscious on the floor. The other students stare in disbelief, one whispering, "What did that bastard Frey just do? There's no way he's capable of such things." A red-haired student and her companion recoil in shock, their faces etched with fear and confusion. Their wide eyes reflect the sudden, inexplicable display of power, struggling to comprehend what just transpired. A rustling of movement spreads through the room as more students turn towards the commotion, one asking, "What's with the uproar in here?" Entering the classroom, Jack and another student pause at the threshold, Jack letting out a soft, surprised sound as he takes in the scene. His gaze sharpens, his monocle glinting as he observes the chaos. Students gather around David's prone form, one exclaiming, "That's, ugh, Jack has fainted. He's not moving anymore." Jack's eye, magnified by the monocle, reflects the grim reality of the situation, a silent testament to the unexpected turn of events. Kneeling beside the unconscious figure, Jack's eyes widen as he recognizes the raw power lingering in the air. These are clearly traces of martial skills infused with mana, a level of mastery he hadn't anticipated. His expression tightens, a mix of shock and disbelief crossing his features. He muses, adjusting his monocle, that no one, not even the most seasoned professors, should possess such talent. His gaze sweeps across the classroom, searching for answers. He wonders who exactly could be responsible, recalling that Professor Keene, who lectures on many subjects, is the one supervising this class, making the situation even more perplexing. The unconscious trainee professor is at risk, though students whisper he should wake soon, being the only one in the class at the time of the incident. As Jack processes this information, Professor Keene, a bald, middle-aged man, observes the students from the back of the room, a subtle smile playing on his lips. His expression remains unreadable, a hint of amusement in his eyes. He muses that the atmosphere of this class is truly exceptional, noting the abundance of female trainees. His gaze lingers on a particularly cute and pretty student named Isabel, as he continues his observation of the bustling classroom. Meanwhile, in the classroom, a fellow student recognizes Frey, calling out his name in surprise. Isabel, overhearing the comment, glares, warning the student not to make Frey his next target. Professor Keene approaches Frey, expressing his surprise at seeing him there, and asks when he started attending classes. His expression remains unreadable. While from a distance, Isabel continues to observe Frey, remarking that he doesn't look fully recovered from his last incident, yet he's already back in class. He stands casually, observing Isabel as she quietly urges him to be less obvious, noting that the professor is busy. Meanwhile, David finds the situation sickening, and Isabel explains that it's because he would always bully Lucas whenever he showed up. From the front of the class, Professor Keene overhears their conversation, sarcastically asking if there were things more important than his class. He stands with a hand on his hip, as Isabel, looking mortified, admits that seems to be the case, adding that she's at an age where she's extremely sensitive to everything. Professor Keene lets out a mocking laugh, questioning what she's even talking about, and warning her not to laugh, or she'll regret it. He turns fully to face the class, his expression darkening, sarcastically agreeing that his class isn't important and should be skipped. Isabel looks down in embarrassment, while Lucas Troman, watching her, notes that she still has to pay tuition fees, finding the professor's antics amusing but realizing she's about to get into trouble. Professor Keene then announces to the class that he'll give them a quick quiz. He continues his stern lecture, emphasizing that such an arrogant attitude would not be tolerated from a student of the academy. Then, without missing a beat, he announces the first question of the pop quiz. He challenges the class to name 3 items used by the legendary magic warrior King Cassigen. The name, however, seems to strike a chord with Lucas Troman, his pale blue eye widening almost imperceptibly. Professor Keene, noticing the subtle shift in the student's demeanor, pauses, questioning what he just heard. Lucas Troman, his expression now sharp and direct, repeats the name, confirming the professor's words. Approximately 4,000 years ago, a serene mountain range stretched endlessly under a clear sky, its peaks shrouded in a gentle mist, hinting at the vastness of the untouched wilderness. High above, a lone figure stood upon a precipice, gazing out at the breathtaking panorama. His long, golden hair was tied back, revealing the powerful musculature of his shoulders, as he prepared for an unseen confrontation. With a surge of inner strength, his hand began to glow with a brilliant, ethereal light, gathering immense power. And with a decisive, explosive force, he unleashed a devastating punch. He gathers immense power, a golden aura flaring around him as he prepares to strike. The force of his punch unleashes a devastating blue energy blast, tearing through the air with incredible speed, impacting the distant mountain range in a blinding explosion, which continues to expand, obliterating the landscape. The sheer power of the attack leaves a colossal crater where the mountain once stood, as the residual blue energy slowly dissipates into the sky. Surveying the utter destruction, a weary sigh escapes him. He muses on the fate of those who have fallen, wondering if they will still look to the rays after their defeat. He then reaffirms his own name, Lucas, with quiet determination. An imposing figure, his muscular frame evident even in repose, reflects on the passage of time. This is Casjin, a man of formidable presence, who now greets an approaching visitor. As he stretches, preparing for another rigorous training session, his movements are sharp and precise. Lucas Troman arrives, a casual greeting on his lips, and questions his friend's dedication to training even during a rare visit. Offering a cup of tea, Lucas invites Casjin to pause and share a moment of tranquility. Seated together, Casjin playfully chides Lucas, calling him musclehead, and expresses concern over his friend's solitary lifestyle. He continues, pondering the implications of Lucas's unwavering focus on strength and how it might affect his future. Lucas, however, holds a different philosophy, asserting that true strength lies in self-reliance, and dismisses romantic entanglements as mere distractions for a martial artist. Casjin's eyes widen in disbelief, stunned by his friend's stark and uncompromising view. Still pondering the nature of his existence, Lucas Troman considers if his current path is truly different from his past. His old friend Casjin watches him intently, a silent exchange passing between them. As the conversation continues, a suggestion is made to simply enjoy the moment with some tea. A knowing smirk plays on Casjin's lips, as if privy to a secret about his companion. He then openly mocks Lucas, calling him Magic Warrior King Casjin, and teasing him for becoming famous after 4 millennia, despite being a musclehead who only ever trained. Lucas internally acknowledges the truth of the taunt, realizing that despite the title, his friend is still registered in the warrior class. The scene shifts to a classroom, where a young woman named Isabel interrupts a lecture, posing a profound question about the source and foundation of knowledge, before politely apologizing to Professor Keen. She continues her thought, asserting that knowledge can only be acquired through formal instruction in a classroom setting. Both Lucas and Casjin observe her with surprise, wondering why Isabel is acting so unusually. Her eyes widen in surprise, as Casjin remarks that despite her pretty appearance, she speaks like a soldier. Isabel continues her argument, stating that Casjin, the Magic Warrior King, was a martial artist. He only used his physical body, she asserts. Therefore, he cannot be called a magician. Her gaze remains firm, unwavering in her conviction. The tension in the classroom is palpable, a silent standoff between student and instructor. Casjin then addresses her directly, calling her trainee Isabel. She challenges him back, asking if he is insulting all practitioners trained in magic warrior techniques. She insists that her interpretation is the only correct one, her expression firm. The tension in the classroom is palpable, as the other students and the professor watch the escalating argument unfold. Casjin, however, remains unperturbed, his gaze steady as he questions her rigid definition of a magician. He asserts that a martial artist is still a magician, implying that Lucas would agree with his broader perspective. David's eyes widen in surprise, recalling a time when he believed Casjin would fight him for even suggesting such a thing. Isabel's gaze sharpens, realizing this debate is far from over and promises to be an interesting challenge. Unable to contain her frustration, she lunges forward, grabbing Casjin's shirt and demanding to know his true intentions. The fabric stretches taut under her grip, a sharp tack sound echoing the sudden tension. David watches, aghast, muttering that her actions are disrespectful. Still gripping his shirt, she presses him for an answer, demanding to know why he won't admit defeat, especially after she used the Warrior King's sword, glove, and necklace. He remains calm, his expression unreadable, a slight smirk playing on his lips. Now seated, Isabel recalls Casjin's earlier statement about being a minimalist, implying these items were the only ones he used. Despite her focused attention, she feels as though her words aren't truly reaching him. Casjin then turns to the assembled students, challenging them directly, asking if he is wrong. His gaze sweeps over the room, unwavering. With a confident gesture, he declares that there's no way he could be wrong, as Jack and Professor Keen listen intently. Jack finds the idea weird, but Professor Keen, after a moment of thought, considers it possible. As the tension in the classroom mounts, a voice calls out Fry Blake's name, drawing attention to the young man who remains composed amidst the heated discussion. Casjin, his brow furrowed in a challenging expression, continues to press his point, his gaze sharp and unwavering. He questions if his opponent has lost their ability to understand, daring them to maintain their attitude. While Professor Keen observes the exchange with keen interest, his expression thoughtful. Unfazed by the intensity, Fry Blake simply asks for the next question, ready to continue the intellectual sparring without a hint of surrender. A bead of sweat trickles down Professor Keen's temple, his eyes wide with disbelief. His students, David and Jack, share equally stunned expressions, their mouths agape. Another student, with orange-brown hair, looks on in utter bewilderment, his brow furrowed. Isabel, too, can only stare, her expression a mix of shock and dawning realization, as the truth of the situation begins to sink in. The professor's voice echoes through the classroom, demanding to know if Lucas Troman had truly answered everything correctly. His face contorted in disbelief. He wonders aloud how this could be, especially regarding the demigod who ages the world, a topic Lucas seemed to know so much about. Another student whispers, questioning if this is truly Fry Blake, the academy's worst trainee, before the professor silences the class with a sharp command. Lucas Troman, unfazed, addresses the professor, asking if there's anything else he'd like to inquire about, his tone calm and confident. Professor Keen's mind raced, struggling to comprehend how such a young student could possess knowledge of events from 4 millennia past, while Lucas merely offered a dismissive humph. The professor's eyes widened further in utter disbelief, his body trembling as he whispered Lucas's name in stunned realization. His fellow students, David and Jack, gasped in unison, and the professor could only manage a quiet, "Good grief." Isabel, too, was caught off guard, her expression one of pure surprise. Later, the Grand Academy building stood under a clear, tranquil sky. As Isabel walked away, deciding to take a moment to herself, her thoughts clearly elsewhere. Isabel approaches the quiet figure of Lucas Troman, her expression thoughtful as she asks if he is heading for lunch. He offers no response, his gaze fixed distantly ahead. Without acknowledging her presence, he simply turns and begins to walk away. His expression remains unreadable. Isabel watches him go, a flicker of surprise crossing her features. She can hardly believe it, muttering to herself, "He ignored me?" Her initial shock gives way to a deeper contemplation, her gaze falling to the ground. Then, with a determined step, she begins to follow him. The sound of her footsteps echoes softly as she walks behind him, both figures moving across the academy grounds. She finally catches up to him, calling out his name, but he simply continues walking, ignoring her presence. Undeterred, she presses him, asking why he's following her, to which he replies, "Are you following me? I am also on my way for lunch." Confused by his dismissive tone, she wonders aloud, "And why do you talk like that? It's weird." He simply states that it's a family heritage, urging her to leave him alone. The two eventually arrive at a Grand Academy building, its towering facade suggesting a bustling dining hall within. Inside, a feast awaits, and Lucas, with an almost predatory hunger, prepares to devour a mountain of food, muttering, "Will you truly eat all this food by yourself?" He sits at a table, surrounded by other students. As he begins to eat with gusto, a blessing offered before the meal. Each meal becomes a blessing afterwards. "Thank you for the food." Isabel, watching him consume an astonishing amount, can't help but ask, "Why am I talking to you?" "No need to know." He simply replies, "No need to know." Later, she sits alone, diligently writing, a thought forming in her mind. "Please don't misunderstand. There simply aren't any empty seats." She continues to write, pondering his words. "Why are you so knowledgeable about the Light Ages?" Light Ages. As the history lesson unfolds, detailing the Light Ages from 4,000 years ago, Isabel watches Lucas Troman, who seems utterly unimpressed by the teacher's lecture on an era considered the pinnacle of human civilization. A subtle frown creases his brow, a silent judgment on the past being presented. He lets out a soft sigh, muttering, "Good grief." His gaze fixed on the teacher, he ponders aloud. To think that magecraft hasn't developed in 4,000 years, but actually regressed instead. His words carry a weight far beyond a student's casual observation, hinting at a profound, almost ancient understanding of the world, as if he were an incarnation of a demigod himself. Isabel, catching his every word, can only stare, her mind reeling from the implications of his casual pronouncement. The lecture continues, showcasing the legendary figures of that bygone era, including the formidable magic warrior King Beolin, a towering figure of raw power. Then came the enigmatic Black Witch Iris Pris founder, and the revered Great Sage Wilsman, each a pillar of their age. And finally, the most celebrated of them all, the man hailed as the strongest mage, the one whom many aspired to rival, Lucas. Lucas Troman, now with gray hair, sits silently, a single word echoing in his mind. Isabel, still processing the professor's words about the Light Ages and an incredible master, wonders what it would have been like to meet such a figure. She imagines offering her hand in marriage to such a legendary mage, a thought so absurd it makes her sputter, while Lucas simply looks down at his food. A piece of food flies from her mouth as Lucas's dismissive thought cuts through the air, labeling anyone still dreaming of heroes from the Light Ages as naive. Isabel, now lost in thought, questions the kind of person he truly is, admitting to herself a growing interest in Fry, especially after witnessing his strong reaction to magecraft. Meanwhile, across the bustling cafeteria, David and Jack notice Isabel sharing lunch with Fry, a sight that immediately piques their curiosity. Jack, surprised, asks David if it's true that Isabel was chasing after him earlier, to which David confirms with a surprised expression. He can hardly believe it. The proud Isabel, consistently ranked among the Academy's top 2, pursuing someone like Fry. David, dejected, laments that despite his daily efforts to ask her out, she seems to be interested in someone else, prompting a sympathetic exclamation from Jack. As the murmurs of other students faded, Lucas Troman remained impassive, though a flicker of annoyance crossed his mind at their persistent chatter. Isabel, however, seemed oblivious to his internal state, continuing their conversation with a thoughtful expression. His gaze remained fixed, but his thoughts were sharp, labeling the unseen source of his irritation as that asshole. Breaking the silence, Isabel redirected their discussion, bringing up Professor Keen's most recent question. Lucas listened intently, his expression unreadable as he continued to eat. She pressed on, referencing his previous answer to the professor's query. Isabel then articulated the core concepts, naming amplification and battling as the key elements. Her words sparked a deeper recollection within Lucas, as he remembered Schweitzer's training methods, which focused solely on assimilation and amplification. The thought lingered, a stark contrast to the current academic discussion. He continues his meal as Isabel, leaning forward slightly, asks if he would grant her the honor of learning the battling method he mentioned. As he takes another bite, Isabel confidently declares, "I am a competent wizard." Internally, Lucas questions her statement, wondering, what stage are you currently? He then states aloud, with a hint of weariness, "I've lived for a long time. Far too long." Isabel, taken aback, asks, "Are you not the same age as me?" Lucas simply mumbles in response. He begins stacking the dishes, dismissing her with a simple, "and no." Isabel starts to question him further, asking, "What do you?" Lucas, having already finished his meal, exclaims, "Wow, I'm stuffed." Isabel, surprised by his speed, asks, "Did you finish everything already?" He walks away with a towering stack of dishes, telling her, "Wait, take your time to eat." As he begins washing the dishes, Isabel, still at the table, finally manages to rephrase her question. "To answer my question, what kind of battling is battling exactly?" Lucas, still holding a stack of dishes, offers a simple piece of advice. As his hands move to wash the dishes, he elaborates, suggesting that true understanding comes not from mere facts, but from the depth of one's experiences. Isabel's eye, reflecting his words, sees something profound, realizing it's not knowledge, but experience? She questions, the word hanging in the air as she tries to comprehend his meaning. Later, in a classroom setting, Lucas stands before a group of students, including Isabel, David, and Jack, with Professor Keen nearby. Isabel, still captivated by his enigmatic nature, silently wonders about his true identity. The Academy's circular arena hums with the anticipation of students, all gathered for a practical demonstration featuring one-on-one magic battles. As they approach the spectacle, David notes that only one-star magic is permitted for the demonstration. Finally, Jack's expression remains intently focused, his gaze fixed on the unfolding scene. Nearby, Isabel and David sit on the steps, David questioning the true meaning of such a restricted display, while a dark-haired woman with sharp features dismisses it, asserting that what they truly need are real battles. The stern voice of an instructor echoes across the training grounds, reminding everyone that they will be held responsible for their own injuries, and that trainees should be careful when expecting a real-life battle. Isabel's brow furrows slightly, a silent question hanging in the air. She leans forward, her gaze fixed on the professor, wondering if his words are directed at her. Professor Keen regards her with a calm demeanor, while Isabel's inner thoughts confess her admiration for his striking appearance. Isabel, however, quickly shakes off her distraction, confronting him directly about his seemingly flippant remarks regarding the professor. He simply offers a cryptic response, advising her to observe and learn. Her thoughts, however, remain fixated on his perceived perfection. Isabel, undeterred, fires back a sharp retort, criticizing his taste in women. Meanwhile, on the bustling training grounds, David and Fry stand side by side, observing the ongoing activities. A sharp gaze from the long silver-haired man meets the intense stare of his orange-haired companion, their expressions hardening with a shared, unspoken resolve. Footsteps echo across the training grounds, as the silver-haired man muses aloud, wondering if his companion feels the same anger, for the wait has been exhausting, making it impossible to sleep well from the sheer excitement. He and David continue their walk, unaware of the orange-haired man's serious gaze following them from behind. The orange-haired man watches them go, a thoughtful expression on his face. Suddenly, a collective gasp of shock erupts from Isabel, the orange-haired man, and another student. As the silver-haired man appears instantly, catching Isabel in his arms, his eyes fixed on her as he declares he now understands why he awoke from his eternal slumber, recognizing her as trainee Fry. His leg extends in a dynamic pose, hinting at the swiftness of his movement, as he concludes that it was all to. He offers a reassuring smile, his pale blue eyes gleaming with an unspoken promise. As he looks down at her, he poses a question, wondering what she thinks, if she would. a blush rising to her cheeks. Isabel's thoughts drift to the possibility of him asking her to do him the honor of taking her out tonight. Suddenly, the scene shifts as Lucas Troman firmly holds another student, his voice sharp with command, ordering them to return to their position, declaring it his last warning. Nearby, David, Jack, and other students watch the exchange, one of them calling out, suggesting they resume their activities. Turning back to Isabel, Lucas Troman reminds her of her place, emphasizing that she must obey the commands of her senior agent, Trainee Fry. Then, a softer tone enters his voice as he adds, promising to treat her to dinner if she performs well. With that, they begin to walk away, their footsteps echoing softly. Isabel's face remains flushed, her mind replaying the unexpected offer. Isabel's mind races, a flurry of thoughts about her interaction with Lucas Troman, as she struggles to regain her composure. He, meanwhile, dismisses her internal turmoil, reminding himself that his heart shouldn't race over a mere trainee, while Isabel, still flustered, tries to calm herself, embarrassed by her own reaction. His attention then shifts to Jack, who lies defeated on the ground, as Lucas Troman questions his performance, asking if he's gone crazy. Jack, still reeling from the defeat, admits he didn't expect such a strong opponent. But Lucas Troman quickly dismisses his excuse, reminding him that he was the one who insisted on the match. He then asks why Jack would cancel the match if he was so confident, to which Jack, looking up, can only question why he would have done so. Lucas Troman sighs, observing that Jack seems to have forgotten his situation from the previous night, and advises him to consider his circumstances more carefully. With a stern expression, Lucas Troman leans in, warning Jack to listen carefully, or he'll start affecting his vocal cords. Jack, now visibly intimidated, can only acknowledge the warning, as Lucas Troman reiterates his previous statement. Lucas Troman concludes his admonishment, stating that such talk would be the last time Jack would ever walk properly. Still focused on the upcoming match, Lucas Troman muses aloud about the perceived weakness of one-star spells. Meanwhile, David approaches Jack, introducing himself with a casual air. A female referee then steps forward, her voice cutting through the arena's murmur to declare the match officially underway. The surrounding crowd watches with bated breath as Lucas Troman begins to chant, calling forth a powerful spell he names Kage. With a surge of energy, the very ground beneath Jack's feet begins to crack and rise, swirling into a violent vortex of light and debris that engulfs him completely. From the sidelines, Isabel and David watch, their faces etched with concern, wondering if he truly intends to use such a devastating technique. Within the maelstrom, Jack stands his ground, arms crossed in a defensive stance, ready to face the full force of the attack. Her eyes wide with alarm, Isabel watches the arena, a wave of concern washing over her as Lucas Troman's spell unfolds. Beside her, David questions the situation, wondering aloud if Professor Jake had truly said that even low-tier spells could be used, but Isabel quickly counters that Lucas hasn't broken any rules. She insists that he cannot be accused of violating rules that he has not transgressed. Meanwhile, the Kage spell continues its devastating manifestation, a swirling vortex of debris and glowing orange energy, a power Lucas knows is unique to his family's direct succession, his hands still guiding its destructive force. Lucas Troman watches the spectacle with a cold, calculating gaze, observing the full impact of his creation. The spell intensifies further, a powerful surge of magic and debris, leaving no doubt as to its destructive capability. Lucas's thoughts echo the spell's lethality, acknowledging that if his opponent's mana is too low, the Kage spell could even prove fatal. A memory flashes through Isabel's mind, a past confrontation with Lucas where she had accused him of bullying people, only for him to defiantly ask what was wrong with that. From another vantage point, a gray-haired observer watches the unfolding events, a single word escaping his lips, really. Lucas Troman extends his hand, a brilliant, light blue orb of pure magical energy coalescing in his palm, a spell he casually refers to as a magic missile. As the spell manifests, Lucas himself watches its effect, while Isabel and David look on with growing concern, and Professor Jake maintains a stern, watchful gaze. The orb continues to glow intensely, drawing a comment from one of the observers about its sheer brilliance. A smirk plays on Lucas's lips, his pale blue eyes glowing with amusement, as he scoffs at the very notion of a magic missile. He surveys the chaotic aftermath of his previous spell, debris swirling around him, muttering about the extensive cleanup required and the limited abilities of his opponent. Then, with a decisive clench of his fist, a much larger, more potent orb of light flares into existence before him. His hand blurs downward, pointing directly at the ground below, directing the immense power. With a deafening impact, the ground erupts, sending massive chunks of debris flying skyward amidst a blinding flash of light. The magical barrier, once a shimmering defense, begins to crack and splinter under the immense pressure. With more fissures spiderwebbing across its surface, the sound of shattering echoing through the air. With a final, violent burst, the protective shield disintegrates completely, revealing a desperate hand reaching out. Jack's face contorts in agony as the raw magical force slams into him, the blue energy engulfing his form. A concentrated blast of light erupts, driving him backward, sending him hurtling through the air, a trail of shimmering blue energy marking his trajectory amidst the flying debris. Before he can recover, multiple sharp shards of magic tear into him, each impact sending jolts of pain through his body. With a heavy thud, he crashes violently into the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust and rubble. Above, the sky is clear, save for the lingering fragments of the destroyed arena, slowly drifting back to Earth. Jack's body lies broken and still amidst the shattered ground. His face contorted in a silent scream of agony, glasses askew as his entire frame trembles from the impact. Around him, the very earth is torn apart, strewn with jagged fragments of what was once solid ground. Chapter 8 begins with a group of students, including David, Jack, and a gray-haired student, looking on with concern. David's face contorts in a silent scream, his eyes wide with terror. Nearby, Lucas Troman stands, his gaze fixed downwards, observing the unfolding scene with an unreadable expression. Tears stream down David's face, a choked sound escaping his throat as he struggles to comprehend what he's witnessing. He tries to speak, but his voice simply isn't coming out. Jack, standing with the other students, remarks on the commotion, finding the situation quite a racket. David remains overwhelmed, his face a picture of profound distress. He surveys the scene with a piercing gaze, his golden hair framing a face etched with a complex mix of judgment and recollection. A student recoils on the ground, as a voice booms, accusing them of using vision modes to betray without understanding the true shame of their actions. The accusation continues to echo, declaring that they are staining their family name. David's face is a mask of utter despair, tears streaming freely as he struggles with an unseen burden. He unleashes a focused burst of brilliant blue energy, the raw power crackling from his outstretched hand. The impact sends David reeling back, a guttural scream tearing from his throat as the force slams into him. Whatever magical defense he had conjured shatters into countless icy fragments, unable to withstand the assault. Still engulfed in the shimmering blue aura, David's scream echoes, a testament to the overwhelming power he faces. Finally, his resistance broken, he collapses to the ground, his clothes torn and his body defeated, as Lucas Troman stands calmly above him. A cold, knowing expression settles on Lucas's face, his glowing eyes fixed on the fallen student. From a distance, Isabel watches the brutal display, her face contorted in a mixture of horror and disbelief. Lucas then addresses the defeated David, his voice carrying an undeniable weight. This is too much. As Isabel stands frozen, another figure approaches her, demanding, "Professor Jane, we already have a problem. What exactly brought you to bring this match to a halt?" He still hasn't declared his. His voice cuts through the air, causing Isabel to flinch, her thoughts echoing the surprise at the sound. Standing over the defeated David, Lucas Troman reiterates his earlier warning, reminding him that he had already stated his expectations for a true battle, not a half-hearted match. Meanwhile, Professor Jake continues his stern lecture, emphasizing that the path to becoming a mage is not one to be walked with wavering resolve. Lucas Troman, still looking down at David, scoffs at the notion of expecting intervention, as if a professor would simply halt a fight when things grew dangerous. Professor Jake turns his gaze towards Isabel, his expression unreadable as he continues to speak. A close-up reveals Lucas Troman's eyes, now glowing with an intense, pale blue light, reflecting the depth of his conviction. David, battered and defeated, struggles to speak, his words laced with a bitter accusation about Lucas Troman's past affection and his current disregard for David's suffering. Lucas Troman, however, remains unmoved, declaring that the world's current state is a direct consequence of individuals like David, who falsely claim the title of magicians. His gaze sharpens, as he delivers his final, damning judgment. Such individuals should not be permitted to wield magic. He stares down at the defeated man, a chilling promise in his voice. For the rest of his life, he will regret this moment. Then, a mocking shift in tone, he adds, "Dude, I'm just kidding. Did you really think I'd kill you?" With a dismissive gesture, he clarifies, "You know I'm nice. I'll stop at your legs since I pity you." The defeated man's face crumples, his eyes squeezed shut against the overwhelming pain and humiliation. A single tear escapes, tracing a path down his cheek. Meanwhile, Lucas's gaze remains cold and calculating, his expression unyielding. David lies broken on the floor, clutching his mangled legs, the question echoing in his mind. "Don't you have two legs?" A sinister smile spreads across Lucas's face as he conjures a glowing orb of energy, announcing his next attack, Magic Missile. His eye flares with an intense, magical glow, the power surging within him. He continues to gather mana, a brilliant orb of light forming in his outstretched hand. As David's eye widens in terror, reflecting the impending attack. The magical energy intensifies, crackling with raw power. A desperate hand reaches out, a futile attempt to ward off the inevitable. Then, a sickening crunch echoes as Lucas's foot descends, crushing something beneath him. David's face contorts in a silent scream of agony. Another brutal impact reverberates, compounding his suffering. From above, an observer remarks on the display, noting that Lucas possesses decent skills. Lucas himself offers a cold, satisfied smirk, his eyes glowing faintly with the residual power of his magic. He walks with a quiet confidence, his gaze steady as they approach the academy gates. The grand structure looming before them. Inside, Whispers ripple through the student body as one student exclaims, "Hey guys, Fry the Trash and his lackey David are back." "What about David?" Another voice quickly adds, "Is that true?" The first student continues, relaying information from a friend. "He was sent back to his family with his arms and legs and vocal cords gone. Isn't his future as a mage doomed?" Another student chimes in, "Well, you reap what you sow. Honestly, wasn't David an asshole? The academy's ambience is a lot better now." Suddenly, a student with gray hair points, "Hey, take a look, that's him." As Lucas and David walk through the crowded hall, students stare, some whispering, "Did he sign a contract with the devil, or what?" The gray-haired student steps forward, confronting Lucas directly, his voice firm as he asks, "Are you Fry Blake?" His expression sharpens, awaiting a response, as he adds, "Yeah, who are you?" A student steps forward, introducing himself as Duman Milist, a fourth-year trainee. David, standing nearby, acknowledges him as an upperclassman, as Duman then directly addresses Lucas, calling him Fry Blake. Lucas's gaze sharpens, a flicker of recognition or perhaps annoyance crossing his features. Duman extends an invitation, urging him to join them in the Traman rings. The blonde-haired mage remains silent, his back to the viewer, as Duman gestures emphatically. A hint of surprise touches Lucas's expression as he repeats the name, Traman. Duman confirms, his tone confident, assuming Lucas, as a trainee of Westroy Academy, would surely know of it. The Traman rings are revealed to be the assembly of trainees of Westroy Academy. Other students murmur about the Traman rings, noting that it is not a place just anyone can join. Duman holds up a golden ring, explaining it's a symbol of the Traman rings, personally given by the master, and only those who pass the test can wear it. As Lucas examines the ornament, he notes its pure gold composition and the master craftsman's handiwork. He continues to scrutinize the ring, wondering if it's an illusion or if its mana is truly beyond his perception, covering his face in deep thought. Observing his reaction, Duman reassures him not to be too shocked, as the Traman rings are an exclusive assembly. Lucas reacts with a surprised exclamation as Duman confirms it's the Traman rings, then adds that it appears Lucas can't see the ring's true form. His eyes widen, a name echoing in his mind, Lord Peruin June. Duman offers a knowing smile. He then formally greets Lucas. Duman watches Lucas, who remains deep in thought. He considers the very concept of a divine being, an existence that humans praise and applaud as God. Suddenly, a voice cuts through his thoughts, asking if they've met before, addressing him as Professor Fry. The gray-haired figure steps forward, his gaze firm as he introduces himself, declaring, "I am the master of the Traman rings, Peruin June." A man with silver hair, dressed in formal attire, introduces himself as Peruin June, the manager of the Traman rings. He then extends a formal invitation, wishing for Fry Blake to join their organization. Fry listens intently, his expression unreadable. Peruin June watches him, awaiting a response. He silently urges his companion to observe Frey's reaction. The silver-haired manager notes Frey's impressive composure, especially for someone his age. However, Fry dismisses the offer with a casual "geez, not interested," stating that joining their group would change nothing for him. Ignoring the recent offer, he finds himself confronted by Duman, who declares his intent not to conceal his name, despite his frustration. As Lucas turns away, seemingly indifferent, Duman's anger boils over, calling him a shameless bastard. A moment later, however, Duman collects himself, offering a curt apology. Lucas stands tall, a faint, pale blue aura emanating from his chest, his presence radiating an undeniable power. Without another word. Later, under the soft glow of evening, a grand building stands, its windows alight, as people gather outside. Inside, a table is laden with a hearty meal, suggesting a moment of respite and comfort. A woman with dark hair sits at the table, acknowledging that she owes someone an apology and a treat. Isabel stands over a lavish table, her frustration evident as she questions why she was told to leave and not eat. She insists that Professor Jane not mind her, explaining that she's worried about someone. Isabel then asks if she can simply leave, but Professor Jane calmly reminds her that there's a limit to how much she can be helped. Meanwhile, in a different location, a woman with long black hair reflects on her research, noting that despite her extensive efforts, she found no information on battling. Back at the table, Professor Jane questions Isabel on what she intends to do if she's so worried, leaving the younger woman momentarily stunned. The black-haired woman, still pondering, wonders if battling refers to a person or a concept. Holding a glass of wine, she mentions hearing rumors about an institution. Later, surrounded by books in a library, she expresses disbelief that despite all her searching, she couldn't find any records, questioning if Professor Jake truly has no trace of it. With a determined expression, she concludes that if it's not battling, then she needs to uncover more about whatever it is. She walks with a determined stride, her thoughts seemingly elsewhere. A faint blush rises to her cheeks, a memory perhaps, stirring a quiet warmth within her. At a dining table, the gray-haired professor pulls her close, his voice a low murmur, speaking of something far more interesting, while Isabel watches on, her expression unreadable. The blush deepens, her eyes betraying a mix of surprise and anticipation. A hand reaches out, their faces drawing closer, almost touching, as she recalls the professor who always made fun of her, and how they were now acting so separately from their usual roles. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes, jolting both the professor and her awake in bed, their eyes wide with shock. Isabel stands over them at the table, her finger pointed accusingly, furious at their shameful behavior with a professor, demanding to know what kind of student she was. Later, under the silent gaze of a full moon, the night deepens. The quiet streets of the city reflect the calm after the storm, a stark contrast to the earlier confrontation. The gray-haired observer senses a presence, a persistent shadow dogging his steps, even here within the Academy's formidable barrier. He is certain of it, but the question remains, why here, of all places? Later, standing under the night sky, the gray-haired observer muses that there are still those who pursue him, and he knows precisely why. Beside him, Isabel gazes up at the stars, a quiet moment shared between them. Her expression is one of concern, while his remains unreadable. She looks down, her hands clasped, as if gathering her thoughts. Addressing her directly, he speaks her name, Isabel, as the street lamp casts a soft glow on the scene. She then asks him, who is the Academy's honcho, a word she finds peculiar. He presses her for an answer, even though she laments that he never answers her own questions. She insists on knowing the truth, demanding he tell her everything. He looks at her, a slight smirk playing on his lips, asking if she's truly that eager for the revelation. The Academy's true leader, the honcho, was the one who initiated all the changes, though amongst the professors, it was Professor Douglas, and amongst the students, Essa Marilia, who held significant sway. Yet, there was another, whose power remained unparalleled. Isabel then reveals the identity of this formidable individual, her own aunt. The gray-haired observer confirms that trainee Isabel's aunt is indeed the Academy's director, Lady Cirrus Trizanine, the only one to receive the title, Ice Synthesis from the Empire, and the sole individual to achieve an 8-star ranking. Later, in a different setting, the gray-haired observer sits opposite a black-haired woman, deep in discussion. She reiterates the astonishing fact that Lady Cirrus is an 8-star mage, a title bestowed by the Empire for her mastery of ice synthesis. Isabel, still processing the information, gasps at the mention of an 8-star mage, questioning if such a high stage is even possible. She points out the extreme rarity, noting that the last person to achieve an 8-star ranking did so 3,000 years ago. The conversation continues, revealing that no one truly knows the highest stage a human mage can reach, though 8-star is considered the absolute peak, a rank so rare that fewer than 10 mages throughout history have ever attained it. Indeed, reaching 8-star is more than just difficult, it's a legend whispered among mages. The gray-haired observer muses, that must mean the person protecting the Academy, the director herself, is an 8-star mage. The black-haired researcher agrees, admitting she knows little about the director, but confirms that Professor Douglas and Essa Marilia are both formidable 7-star mages. In a brief, almost ethereal flashback, Lucas Troman stands before David and Duman Milist, extending an invitation to join the Troman rings. Back in the present, the gray-haired observer's thoughts return to the Academy's director, an 8-star mage who might hold crucial information. His resolve hardens, he must meet her. As if summoned by his thoughts, a voice calls out, Isabel, and she responds, yes? A close-up reveals the gray-haired observer's intense gaze, his eyes fixed on the newly arrived Isabel. The gray-haired observer continues his conversation with the black-haired researcher, remarking that he cannot get an accurate read on the Academy's true strength, even with his extensive influence. A flashback then shows Lucas Troman, inviting David and Duman Milist to join the Troman rings, promising them a future where they will surpass their current limits. Back in the present, the researcher asks if he should try to get a 7-star mage, to which the observer dismisses the idea, stating that 7-star mages are not enough. She responds, acknowledging that it would take 10 years to reach that level, and even then, it might not be enough. The gray-haired observer then muses, wondering if he could reach that level himself if he trained hard enough before the vacation ends. The researcher chuckles, commenting that his bluffs might become reality one day, but then asks what he just said. She adds that it is good to dream big. The observer, with a determined expression, declares his dream is a big thing, and asks if she will care for him. She responds with a simple, hesitant, wait, as he continues to speak. Suddenly, the gray-haired observer is seen embracing Isabel, exclaiming that he cannot, because she is a student. Isabel struggles in the observer's arms, her frustration evident as she demands he change his casual demeanor. She warns him that if he continues to act so casually, she will report him to her aunt. The observer, however, simply dismisses her with a cool remark about not liking little kids. This only further enrages Isabel, who shouts in protest, while the black-haired researcher beside her offers a knowing, if slightly exasperated, agreement. The observer, turning away from the commotion, simply states that it's nothing, trying to brush off the situation. As the night deepens over the city, the observer stands alone on the balcony, contemplating his next moves, knowing there's no need to rush, but that he must do what he can for now without mistakes. His gaze is sharp and focused, as he considers the quickest way forward. 3 weeks later, a bandaged leg rests on the ground, a small, broken piece of something lying nearby. In the school hallway, Duman Milist confronts Lucas Troman, his voice sharp with accusation, demanding, "You dared to hurt me?" Surrounded by his cronies, Duman continues his tirade, declaring, "I don't know what you guys are doing, but there's no way I'll lose against trash like you." With a decisive tap, a foot crushes the broken object underfoot. Later, in the quiet of the library, Isabel gazes out a window, lost in thought. Duman finds Lucas again, who is holding a book, and sneers, "Fry, did you think I'd let it slide?" His face contorted in rage, Duman vows, "I'll make you regret being born." Still seething with anger, he vows to unleash his full force, declaring he'll order all his boys to act. Before Lucas can even react, a barrage of magic missiles slams into him, sending him reeling backward. His crutches fly away as he tumbles, crashing hard onto the unforgiving floor. The impact echoes, drawing smirks from Duman's waiting associates. Lucas lies helpless on the ground, surrounded by the jeering figures, as Duman stands triumphantly over him. With a cruel sneer, Duman orders his thugs to rearrange Lucas's nose properly. His words hang heavy in the air, a chilling promise of further violence, as Isabel watches the scene unfold from a distance. A gasp escapes her lips, her face etched with profound worry. Leaving Lucas still crumpled on the ground, Duman and his associates casually walk away, their cruel act complete, as Isabel remains a silent, distressed witness. Standing over the injured Lucas, Duman Milist associates express their surprise at his weakness, questioning his status within the prestigious Westwood Academy. Meanwhile, Lucas struggles internally, acknowledging the difficult situation he finds himself in and the urgent need for more practical experience to master the mana within Frey's body. As he attempts to leave the scene, one of Duman's companions blocks his path, demanding to speak with him about his presence on the first floor with Professor Jane. Duman then steps forward, his gaze fixed on Lucas as he taunts him about his rumored inability to use magic. Lucas remains sprawled on the ground, his body still reeling from the previous attack as Duman looms over him. He lies helpless, unable to rise as the taunts continue. One of Duman's companions, a young man with light brown hair, introduces himself as Alex Drumid, implying Lucas should recognize him. Duman then asserts his authority, reminding Lucas that as his upperclassman, he deserves respect and praise. With a confident smirk, Duman boasts that he could utterly destroy Lucas with even the slightest effort. Still on the ground, Lucas is subjected to Duman's taunts, who demands to know what he intends to do, as the once revered boy, accustomed to princely treatment, now lies like refuse. Looking up at his tormentor, Lucas retorts, asking how Duman plans to pay for smashing his head and nose. Nearby, Alex wonders aloud if this truly is Fry Blake, while another student hesitantly asks if they are currently bullying him. Duman, ignoring the bystander, sharply reminds Lucas to show respect to his upperclassmen. Lucas, his pale blue eyes glowing faintly, thinks to himself about these little brats. Duman, growing more agitated, questions if Lucas truly doesn't know who he is, reminding him of his past dealings with David. Lucas, his voice laced with menace, asks if Duman wishes to die, recalling his past visit to the first floor with Professor Jane. Duman, with a raised hand, declares that today will be Lucas's funeral. It seems Duman has grown too complacent, surrounded by his friends, after dealing with a mere underclassman, but Lucas, still on the ground, vows to ensure Duman is the one who dies. Duman Milist, flanked by Alex Drumid, dismisses the earlier threats, assuring his companions not to be afraid, as they are merely spectators. He sneers, questioning why they would need to gang up on a puny boy like him, before launching a magic missile. But before the spell can connect, Lucas moves with impossible speed, sending one of the students flying with a powerful, unseen force. Another student is instantly struck, collapsing to the ground with a sharp impact. In a blur of motion, several more of Duman's companions are sent sprawling, their bodies hitting the floor with heavy thuds. Duman and Alex stare in disbelief, their faces contorted in shock at the sudden turn of events. From the shadows, a desperate cry echoes, as Alex's name is called out in alarm. Alex Drumid and another student lie defeated amidst the scattered crates, their forms still. Lucas stands over them, his voice cold as he mocks their continued defiance, while a hidden observer notes the impossible feat. He is using his opponent's magic while transformed. He looks out at the stunned students, a hint of self-reproach in his voice as he admits his mistake, realizing this isn't a game and questioning his actions with these kids. But one of them, his face contorted in rage, screams, "Bastard! There's a certain limit to insolence." Duman Milist, equally incensed, declares his heritage, son of the great mages, Goldbrecks. "I'm the descendant of the Phalaris magic family." The hidden observer, witnessing the escalating confrontation, reacts with wide-eyed disbelief, utterly stunned by the unfolding events. Before they can even finish their boasts, Lucas unleashes a blinding flurry of blue magical energy, striking multiple students simultaneously with devastating force, their cries of pain echoing through the hall. Another student is thrown back, his face a mask of shock and pain, barely able to utter a sound. As the chaos erupts around him, Lucas begins to chant, his form glowing with a vibrant blue aura, intoning the words, "I'm Magic Missile." He repeats the spell's name, the magical energy coalescing around him, ready to unleash another devastating attack. He lands amidst the wreckage of his assault, the defeated students scattered around him. Looking up, a thought echoes in his mind. Meaningless. These fools never knew their place. He sighs, a weariness settling over him, thinking, at this rate, I might grow accustomed to their sheer stupidity. The Grand Academy stands silent under the clear sky. Inside, Lucas is slumped over a desk, surrounded by papers scrawled with the same word, meaningless. His eyes slowly open, a question forming in his mind. Just what exactly am I doing these days? Back in the present, Isabel looks up from the ground, recognizing him. She points out that he's already incapacitated everyone who couldn't use magic missile. Alex drew mid, also defeated, challenges him, reminding him that these weak individuals are all elite mages, and questions his choice of spell, magic missile, calling it a low-rank technique. Lucas Troman stands over him, his hand beginning to glow with magical energy, declaring that there's no one left for him to practice on other than those who can wield magic missile. Isabel watches the young man intently. As the gray-haired observer lies still, his eyes closed in contemplation. A soft blush spreads across her cheeks, a quiet thought escaping her lips. So cute. Breaking the silence, Isabel asks him, by the way, what do you want? Without opening his eyes, he replies, I followed your advice. His thoughts drift to the intricacies of magic, recalling how Troll's blood could enhance engraving circles. But Isabel's own breakthrough was more profound, the idea of mixing it with goblin blood in a precise 7:3 proportion. She then questions his earlier statement. Oh, what? His internal monologue confirms her thought, recalling his own advice. Try using goblin's blood while you're at it. It'll work better. Now standing before a glowing magic circle on the floor, the gray-haired observer declares, indeed, an extreme breakthrough, as Isabel watches him, impressed. A faint blush spreads across Isabel's cheeks, as she eagerly asks the gray-haired observer, then what will you teach me next time? He glances at her, a thoughtful expression on his face, while she avoids his gaze, still flustered. A moment later, the observer's eyes widen in surprise, a question forming in his mind. When did I start tutoring her? He considers her potential, musing internally, she is a talented kid. I'll raise her properly. No, maybe an 8-star mage. His attention returns to her, and he simply calls out, Isabel. Now seated across from him, Isabel declares with renewed determination, I'll talk about battling this time. She continues, her gaze firm, I'll leave to train during the vacations. Her blue eyes glow with fierce resolve as she makes a bold invitation. If you come with me, you'll see the battling with your own eyes. However, the gray-haired observer concedes, acknowledging that it would be a dangerous place where she could lose her life, and that he isn't confident in her abilities. Despite this, he agrees to accompany her. His hand, adorned with a simple ring, rests calmly as he considers her request. He then looks towards Isabel, a thoughtful expression on his face. Isabel, her blue eyes reflecting determination, awaits his final word. As they begin to walk away, with the academy grounds fading into the distance, she reiterates her request for him to join her training. A frustrated sigh escapes Lucas, who exclaims that they simply wouldn't understand, while Isabel, standing with Duman, questions what they're even talking about. He continues, dismissing their confusion, before Isabel, still perplexed, asks where they are headed. Elsewhere, the gray-haired observer muses to himself, a thoughtful expression on his face. Back with the group, Lucas reveals his destination, mentioning the Hispania Mountains, which elicits a surprised gasp from Isabel. The vast, snow-capped peaks of the Hispania mountain range stretch into the distance, a formidable sight. Lucas confirms the identity of the range, noting its reputation as a breeding ground for monsters, and David, with a simple affirmation, acknowledges the danger. He explains that it would take approximately half a day to reach their destination, even with the use of a warp stone. The map illustrates the winding path ahead, confirming the significant distance. He adds that the road through the mountains is notoriously treacherous, teeming with dangerous monsters. Isabel, her expression shifting, is asked if she's afraid. She quickly retorts, telling him not to look down on her. Her gaze hardens as she admits, she hadn't expected their journey to be easy from the start. He then inquires about what she had mentioned earlier, referring to something from 4,000 years ago. As a glowing warp stone materializes in his hand, he explains that it's a device for long-distance movement, just like the warp gates. Isabel, looking surprised, remarks on its convenience, noting that such things didn't exist 4,000 years ago. He considers how technology, though not significantly advanced in some areas, has steadily improved, making even warp gates surprisingly affordable. Yet, the idea of commercializing such powerful travel methods, he thinks, is quite ingenious. It truly makes for a convenient world. However, he notes, there is still a significant drawback, the cost, which he wonders if it's truly that high. As they stand before a massive warp gate in a bustling town square, David asks about the price, knowing the immense distance between Kaz, Mythony, and Hispania will make it considerable. Lucas reveals the journey will cost roughly 10 gold, a sum that makes Isabel's eyes widen in utter disbelief, her voice rising in a shocked exclamation. She stares at the imposing structure, still reeling from the exorbitant price, a heavy thud echoing her internal shock. Turning to her companions, she questions Lucas's claim of nobility, then suddenly realizes something important. a thought striking her with a sharp "wait." Isabel, herself a noble with considerable wealth, can't fathom Lucas's casual attitude towards such a sum, demanding to know if he feels no remorse. Isabel, still reeling from the warp gate's exorbitant cost, turns to the gray-haired student, demanding to know how much money he has on him, while he looks back in utter bewilderment. He can only respond with a sheepish, yet firm, declaration that he has no money on him. Explaining his practical approach, he clarifies that he wouldn't bring unnecessary items on a training journey. Isabel, growing increasingly agitated, insists he return home for funds, but another student, Duman, quickly interjects, reminding them they cannot be late for their training, as Sarah is already waiting. Her gaze then falls upon the gray-haired student's surprisingly large bag, and she questions how he could claim to have no money with such an enormous satchel. With a frustrated sigh, Isabel tries to explain that there's a fundamental difference between this and that, emphasizing a woman's need for many things. Lucas, observing the escalating argument, calmly suggests that things will sort themselves out once they reach the capital, a sentiment the gray-haired student echoes with a hopeful, yet uncertain, whisper. Turning her attention to Lucas, Isabel pointedly asks if he has ever held a job, to which he responds with a simple, unburdened no, never. Despite the financial uncertainties, the group continues their journey, walking through the bustling streets of a town, heading towards their next destination. Isabel and the gray-haired student look on with wide eyes, taking in the bustling port. Before them, a massive ship, its sails furled, stands ready for departure, with countless figures already making their way up the gangplank. Isabel remarks on the situation, noting that the journey is free for academy trainees. As they join the throng of students heading towards the ship, the gray-haired student observes the sheer number of trainees present. Isabel expresses her hope for good food, particularly meat, while the gray-haired student mentions hearing rumors of top-quality provisions. David, overhearing their conversation, can barely contain his excitement at the prospect of delicious meals. However, their anticipation is cut short as a voice announces that the ship is already full, eliciting a shocked reaction from the crowd. Isabel and the gray-haired student exchange worried glances, their hopes for a comfortable journey suddenly dashed. Despite the setback, the ship, now identified as the Corteso, begins to pull away from the dock, leaving the group to ponder their next move. She stands beside him, a quiet observer as he muses aloud, finding a certain dark amusement in his own reflection. The bustling port teems with life, a testament to the inherent drive of humanity. A port official, his expression unreadable, confirms the free passage for trainees. The gray-haired man offers a polite, if somewhat resigned, acknowledgement. Meanwhile, deep within the hull of a ship, a shadowy figure moves with purpose. Another, more boisterous individual, enjoys a meal amidst the ship's rough interior. A gruff voice cuts through the ship's din, confirming preparations are complete. The captain, a formidable man with a thick beard, gives his final, ominous command. A sinister chuckle echoes through the ship, promising a memorable, and likely dangerous, night. On a different ship, a pirate with a bandana covering one eye stands before a hooded figure, who asks, "Why did you pluck your eye out? Then, you pain?" The first mate scoffs, replying, "What are you saying? Isn't it a pirate's pride to only have one eye? And that's not all. I'm not a perfectly normal person in this bats-hit crazy world." Elsewhere, a map lies spread on a table, its destination marked as a secret, as a voice mutters, "Humph." The pirate captain addresses his crew, revealing their target for the day. Today's target is a ship that'll stop at Corteso. Another pirate adds, "I'll aim for the weakest point. That's the easiest way to the core." The first mate turns to the captain, confirming, "Leader, we'll be looting a lot tonight." He then inquires, "Incidentally, what is that ship's name again?" The captain's expression darkens as he warns, "You and your men can take what you want, but I'll take the last eyeball of yours if you don't work very carefully." He then reveals, it's the ship with all sorts of trainees from rich families. Meanwhile, under a clear blue sky, the grand ship Corteso sails, carrying Isabel and the gray-haired observer. A man in a crisp naval uniform greets them warmly. "Welcome aboard the Corteso. I am the captain, Mac Martinez." Isabel and the observer respond politely, "We'll be in your care." On their ship, the pirate first mate expresses concern that if they don't attack now, they'll be stuck in town for a month, while his captain dismisses the notion, confident they'll find another target. Meanwhile, aboard the Corteso, Captain Mac Martinez explains that the ship is often targeted by pirates, especially in areas where they frequently appear. The pirate captain, however, simply scoffs at the idea of any real threat, assuring his crew there's no need to worry. Back on the Corteso, Mac Martinez continues, detailing the ship's formidable defenses, including 2 escort warships, their hulls glowing with protective magic. He points out the Corteso itself, now surrounded by a shimmering, pink-hued magical barrier, further reinforced by a 4-star magician from the Magic Tower, serving as an escort. As if to emphasize his point, a powerful mage is seen channeling vibrant blue energy, ready to unleash a devastating spell. Despite the overwhelming odds, the pirate captain remains undeterred, his face set in a grim determination, convinced that no matter how many pirates come for them, they won't succeed. Meanwhile, the gray-haired observer's eyes glow with an intense blue light, his hand radiating a fiery orange aura, hinting at hidden powers. Back on the Corteso, Mac Martinez lets out a sigh, feeling a sense of relief, while on their own ship, the pirate captain, still focused on his target, exclaims, "Pirates!" The pirate first mate, still on deck, watches the approaching Corteso, a grim realization dawning on him. He mutters, almost to himself, they wouldn't just be protected by Empire warships, would they? Meanwhile, on the Corteso, Isabel and the gray-haired observer stand together, their expressions shifting from apprehension to surprise as the pirate ships draw closer. On the pirate ship, the captain, undeterred, barks orders as his first mate points towards the Corteso, confirming the presence of the enemy. The massive Corteso glides through the water, its imposing structure now clearly visible. Back on the pirate ship, the first mate's voice trembles. "That's a pirate ship? Captain Mac, this is bad." Isabel's eyes widen in shock, her mind racing as she processes the unfolding situation. The gray-haired observer, his expression unreadable, watches the scene with a calm intensity. Suddenly, a brilliant, shimmering magical barrier erupts around the Corteso, its ethereal energy swirling protectively. As the magical defenses of the Corteso fully manifest, a shimmering blue barrier extends deep into the ocean, enveloping the ship's hull. All preparations for its protection have been completed. A swirling vortex of blue magical energy crackles with raw power. While elsewhere, a voice filled with disbelief cries out, "Impossible! They sank 2 warships? That's not something mere pirates can do." On the deck of a pirate ship, the captain and his crew stare out at the horizon, their faces etched with a mixture of shock and growing fear. One of the Mohawk pirates lets out a nervous, strained laugh. "Ha!" Just a few minutes prior, a crew member had urgently called out, "Captain, they're in sight." As 2 imposing ships appeared on the horizon, the lead vessel identified as the Corteso. Now, the pirate captain and his first mate, surrounded by their anxious crew, faced the grim reality. There are 2 warships with it. What do we do? As the pirate captain considers their dire situation, he assures his crew that a special individual will handle the threat for them. This special guest is not easily swayed, a robed figure surrounded by a faint purple glow and floating blue orbs, who is incredibly difficult to recruit. The purple energy intensifies, coalescing into a monstrous, skull-like visage with piercing, glowing eyes. Its gaping maw seems to scream silently, as the floating blue orbs orbit its ethereal form, radiating immense magical pressure. The robed figure stands at the center of this maelstrom, the purple energy swirling around him like a protective, yet ominous, shroud. He is none other than Lord Goulard, the Lich, an exceptional being whose power is now being called upon to aid them in this single, crucial raid. A pirate, his face contorted in fear, watches the terrifying display of power, purple tendrils of magic snaking around him. Another pirate, Horace, expresses his deep concern, his companion only able to groan in agreement at the gravity of the situation. Lord Goulard reveals the immense personal cost of his intervention, explaining that he is using his very life force, as if inhabiting a host body, to manifest such power. Still reeling from the captain's audacious plan, Horace mutters about the madness of attacking the Corteso, protected by warships, but the first mate quickly silences him. The first mate then expresses his disbelief at the captain's contract with a Lich, though he concedes that the captain will undoubtedly leave his mark in pirate history. Meanwhile, Lord Gullard's power continues to surge, his Lich form radiating an ominous purple energy as he prepares his devastating magic. A swirling vortex of dark energy forms, and from its depths, the chilling declaration of Ice Spear echoes. With a blinding flash of blue light, a colossal spear of ice, intricately formed and crackling with power, materializes. The massive projectile then streaks across the sky, aimed directly at the distant warships. Witnessing the sheer destructive force, Lucas Troman's eyes widen in stunned disbelief. Horace and the first mate, equally overwhelmed, can only stare in terrified awe at the spectacle. But Lucas quickly shakes off his shock, manifesting his own ice magic as he prepares to counter the incoming threat. He unleashes his own formidable ice magic, a swirling vortex of blue and white energy erupting around him. Even as Lord Gullard's colossal ice spear impacts the distant warships, shattering them into icy fragments with a deafening crack. The devastating ice continuing to tear through the fleet. A massive hand clenches in anticipation. As the ice spear continues its destructive path, threatening to obliterate the remaining vessels. When Lucas Troman manifests a colossal, shimmering ice barrier, radiating with blue energy. The pirate captain grits his teeth, a guttural roar escaping him in intense anticipation. As Lord Gullard's ice spear collides with the formidable barrier, halting its advance in a blinding flash of power. The captain lets out a triumphant laugh, commanding his crew to seize the moment and land. "Come on, let's go. We're going to land." A roar of excitement erupts from the pirate crew, their cutlasses raised high in triumph. But the captain's face twists in confusion, his gaze fixed on the distant ship, as he realizes the attack was Lord Gullard's ice spear, a single strike that should have annihilated their target. Nearby, the first mate stares in disbelief, muttering about the odd turn of events and the sheer terror of the Lich's power. Lord Goulard, cloaked in dark magic, observes the aftermath, his glowing eyes reflecting the 3 massive ice spears he had just unleashed, each meant to be utterly destructive. He confirms to himself that he had indeed summoned 3 ice spears. Yet, the pirate captain can only gape in utter bewilderment, unable to comprehend how the targeted ship remains perfectly afloat, untouched by the devastating magic. A subordinate cautiously addresses Lord Goulard, who, despite his immense power, finds himself unable to believe his own misjudgment of the situation. The first mate, his face grim, suggests a new strategy, using the passengers on the ship as hostages. The captain, turning sharply to Horace, barks his name, demanding an apology for the unexpected turn of events. Horace seethes, muttering about the irritating bastard. Lord Goulard explains that he attacked them to prevent the ship from sinking, believing it would be a fair trade. He then demands to know what they are trying to say, his voice echoing with menace. His skeletal face glows with an ominous red light. A voice, presumably his, urges them to please calm down. Meanwhile, the pirate captain barks orders to his crew, who immediately follow, preparing to board the target vessel. Lucas, his eyes flaring with a golden light, observes the unfolding chaos. Standing beside him, David watches the scene with a grim expression. Isabel, her face etched with shock, whispers about the annihilated warships. Peruan June gazes out, his expression thoughtful, as if recalling a distant memory. Meanwhile, Isabel and David watch the unfolding chaos, with Isabel noting, "They're giving them a hard time. It's a good thing we didn't get involved." Below, Peruan June's thoughts drift to the pirates. He remembers a time when even the strongest attacks were futile, with powerful blows vanishing midair, leaving no trace. Isabel turns to Peruan June, asking, "Did you intervene?" He closes his eyes, a sigh escaping him, the memory still fresh. His mind replays the image of a monstrous, shadowy entity, its form wreathed in dark, glowing purple energy. He recalls the futility of his efforts. "Even though I sensed the mana fluctuations, I couldn't block it," he then reflects. "Fry, I'm not so different from you." Elsewhere, Duman Mylist and Alex Drew Mid observe the unfolding events, with Duman expressing concern. "It might have been a foolish decision to come here." Peruan June's gaze remains fixed, his expression a mix of contemplation and lingering regret. He watches the unfolding chaos, a hand reaching out in a futile gesture, as a voice dismisses the victims. "Get a grip. They're pirates. They're gonna die anyway." Another voice retorts, "That's an ungrateful thing to say." Isabel turns to him, questioning, "If it wasn't for him, who would have blocked it?" He simply responds, "Who knows?" A thoughtful expression settles on his face. Meanwhile, on the ship's deck, Captain Martinez stands firm, declaring, "For saving this ship." Suddenly, a violent impact rocks the vessel, sending crew members flying with cries of kayak as the shouts of "pirates" echo across the water. The deck quickly becomes a chaotic battleground. The ship's structure groans under the assault. Swarms of pirates pour onto the deck, engaging the crew in brutal close combat, their battle cries filling the air. Panic spreads as crew members scream, "The pirates are invading, and save me." The ship's deck erupts into chaos as pirates swarm aboard, their blades clashing against the crew's defenses. One crew member falls, a pirate's heavy boot pressing down on his chest. The assault is relentless, the pirates having boarded without warning, overwhelming the ship's defenders. Captain Martinez watches the carnage unfold, his face etched with disbelief as he realizes the sheer number of attackers and their ability to pierce his defenses. Amidst the fray, the pirate first mate barks orders, directing his crew to specifically target those from wealthy families. A cruel grin spreads across his face as he thinks of his dear little brother and comrade. Then, a hulking figure with a distinctive mohawk steps forward, introducing himself as Horace, a member of the blood-red crew. On the deck of a grand vessel, a pirate captain and his crew confront the ship's captain, Mac Martinez, the pirate's voice dripping with disdain as he asks if Mac even knows whose ship this is. Mac Martinez, his expression firm, confidently asserts that he does. The pirate captain merely laughs, a harsh, booming sound, revealing that the ship is a treasure chest filled with rich families. His words ignite a furious response from Mac Martinez, who demands to know how the dirty pirate dares to speak like that. The captain's face contorts in anger, his defiance unwavering. The pirate captain, however, remains unfazed, mocking Mac Martinez by asking if he truly believes he can fight them, given the valuable cargo of nobles and royalty on board. But Mac Martinez's resolve hardens, declaring that the pirates have chosen the wrong ship to raid. Captain Mac Martinez stands firm against the pirate crew, his voice ringing with defiance as he declares their grave mistake. But before the pirates can react, a surge of power emanates from Lucas Stroman, who braces himself, a faint glow already forming around his hands. A crimson beam of energy, launched by the pirate captain, streaks across the deck, aiming directly for him. His pale blue eyes ignite with intense light, and his hand glows with concentrated magic. The pirate captain, confident in his attack, warns him not to interfere, but Lucas simply retorts that he has never applauded or praised him. A green magical projectile, Lucas's counter, impacts with explosive force, sending the pirate captain recoiling in surprise. Mac Martinez and the woman beside him gasp in terror, while Horace, another pirate, looks on in stunned disbelief. The pirate first mate and another crew member cry out in alarm, their faces etched with fear as the battle escalates. As another green projectile streaks towards the ship, a cloaked figure with gray hair suddenly appears, intercepting the attack with a powerful, glowing barrier, leaving onlookers to wonder if this is the one who blocked the attack aimed at the ship. He stares, wide-eyed, as a stern voice warns him, he is not an opponent you can face. The hooded figure continues, do not get yourself in trouble and stay down obscurity. Meanwhile, the pirate captain, bound and fuming, demands, Captain, how could you miss that? A pink-haired woman retorts, silence. I missed on purpose since he's a valuable hostage. His face contorted in anger, the captain declares, I'll stop messing around, adding that he will get serious now. A man in glasses, overseeing the captured pair, announces, good, that Four Eyes, let's use him. The pink-haired woman hesitates, muttering, no, as the two captives lie tied on the floor. A small puddle spreads across the ship's deck. The pirate captain, pinching his nose in disgust, exclaims, look, did he piss his pants? He then orders, get him washed. The blonde captive lies helpless, his pants visibly soaked. He plunges into the frigid water, a desperate cry escaping his lips as the shock of the impact overwhelms him. The ship's hull slams against the waves, sending a massive spray of water high into the air. Struggling to surface, he gasps for breath, the cold water threatening to drag him under. Amidst the floating debris, Lucas Troman drifts, his body battered by the sea. The vast expanse of the ocean stretches around him, a silent, indifferent witness to his plight. Back on deck, the pirate captain and the pirate with glasses observe the scene, the latter remarking on the cruel fate of some two-star orca. Suddenly, a surge of brilliant blue energy erupts, as Lucas Troman, now back on deck, unleashes his fury, condemning the detestable pirates for their actions. The pirate with glasses, however, merely holds a hand to his ear, dismissing the powerful magical outburst as nothing more than noisy chatter. Despite his nonchalance, Lucas Troman's concentrated magical attack strikes him directly, sending shimmering blue energy rippling across his form and pushing him back. As his words echo, a torrent of ice shards erupts from his shadowy form, striking one of the pirates with devastating force. The pirate captain recoils in shock, as a swirling vortex of dark purple energy begins to coalesce. The pirate with glasses, still clutching his glowing blue sword, can only stare in disbelief, uttering a choked howl. As the magic intensifies, the dark energy surges, enveloping him completely. He is consumed, disappearing into the swirling purple abyss. The pirate captain stares at the empty space, his sword now fallen to the deck, muttering in disbelief, that's no way, is that a real lich? The remaining pirates recoil in terror, as the dark energy continues to churn and grow. From the heart of the swirling purple abyss, a cloaked, skeletal figure emerges, its eyes burning with an ominous red glow. From a distance, Isabel and the gray-haired observer watch the terrifying manifestation, their faces etched with profound shock. As the skeletal form of Lord Goulard solidified, Lucas Troman confronted the pirates, demanding to know if they had truly made a contract with such an undying being. From his glowing red eyes, the lich responded with a chilling correction, declaring that undying beings don't make deals with mere mortals, and questioning their very act of speaking to him. Unfazed by the terrifying entity, the pirate captain defiantly declared that they cared neither for power nor money, for they were simply pirates. Lucas, witnessing their reckless abandon, muttered about their insanity, questioning if even their lives held no value compared to money, before complaining about the oppressive heat. As the gray-haired observer held Isabel close, he calmly added that the humidity was also quite high, given their location in the middle of the sea. His expression, however, betrayed a deeper concern, reflecting the gravity of the situation. Isabel, overwhelmed by the chaos, covered her ears, her face etched with distress. Looking out at the pirate ship, Isabel finally voiced her chilling realization that these were no ordinary pirates, and that the entire situation was a disaster. As the swirling purple magic intensified, he considered the true nature of the being before them, a lich who must be at least a 4-star mage. Now, he understood why even the 4-star battle mages couldn't defend themselves at all, their efforts utterly futile against such power. Meanwhile, the pirate captain, undeterred by the ominous presence, bellowed, "Come on out." Lord Goulard, the lich, stood cloaked in dark, swirling energy, facing the defiant captain. His glowing red eyes fixed on an unseen target as he declared, "The one who blocked my magic." Extending a hand wreathed in dark power, he commanded, "Show yourself. I know you're hiding them." Lucas and the gray-haired observer watched with growing apprehension as the lich's voice echoed, "Reveal yourself right now, if you continue to hide." Before he could finish his threat, a skeletal hand erupted with a surge of dark energy, unleashing a devastating magical attack. Jagged, glowing purple ice shards tore through the air, a chilling display of his power. Lord Gullard's magic erupts, a torrent of glowing purple ice shards manifesting with lethal intent, as he declares his immediate plan to eliminate everyone. Enveloped in a dark, swirling aura, the Lich stands menacingly before the pirate captain, his power radiating outwards. From a distance, Lucas and the gray-haired observer watch the unfolding terror, while the pirate captain can only manage a choked sound of despair. The massive ice shards rain down, striking the ship with devastating force, eliciting a desperate scream from the captain. Overwhelmed by fear, the pirate captain attempts to plead with the Lich, his voice trembling as he questions Gullard's actions. But Gullard's glowing red eyes betray no mercy, only cold, unyielding power. The pirate captain, drenched in sweat, acknowledges the sheer terror of the Lich's presence, his mind reeling from the overwhelming display of power. With a deliberate, heavy step, Gullard advances. He looms over the terrified pirate captain, his voice cutting through the chaos as he demands to know, "Are you the one who blocked my magic?" His glowing blue eyes fixed on the terrified pirates, Lord Gullard's voice cuts through the silence, demanding to know the identity of the one who dared to interfere with his magic. He stands before them, an imposing figure of dread, as his command echoes across the ruined deck, "Reveal your name." From a distance, Isabel and David watch the unfolding drama, their faces etched with concern. While Lucas Troman observes with a focused intensity, his gaze unwavering. Among the onlookers, Peruan June stands, his expression a mixture of apprehension and calculation, the weight of the Lich's demand palpable in the air. Isabel questions the mention of Peruan June, wondering if the gray-haired man knows him. Meanwhile, Lucas Troman, hearing the name, doesn't recognize anyone by that name in their academy, though a narration clarifies that Peruan June is, in fact, the leader of the student council. Isabel continues, explaining that Peruan June is also the legitimate son of one of the Empire's 3 most influential houses, the June House, to which her companion responds with a surprised, "Oh, is that so?" Peruan June simply offers a calm, "Excellent." Isabel then teases him, asking if he's jealous because Peruan June always competes with the top student in the academy, a suggestion he vehemently denies. Lucas, still reflecting on the information, acknowledges that although their grades might be similar, Peruan June's actual stage must be a few steps higher than his own. Suddenly, Isabel exclaims, realizing that Lord Peruan June must be on the ship with them. As the crowd parts, a figure emerges, drawing gasps of relief from the onlookers. Isabel, among them, recognizes him instantly, exclaiming, "It's Lord Peruan. Thank goodness, we're saved." She continues, her voice laced with concern, "It was the most influential man who nullified the Lich's magic. He might be able to deal with this situation. Don't tell me." Turning to Peruan June, she asks, "That?" Meanwhile, Lucas Troman, observing the scene, reflects on the difficulty of the situation, thinking, "It must be difficult, just to stand up for his own right." His thoughts continue, assessing the threat. The Lich is at least 5-star. He considers Peruan June's current capabilities, knowing that while his enlightenment and mana had grown, he had only just reached 5-star himself. The lingering magical residue from the Lich's attack is still visible, a testament to its power, and the very fact that anyone survived canceling such magic is a miracle. Lucas Troman's gaze hardens as he concludes, higher than his previous life is a miracle. Isabel, her expression worried, then asks, "Are you at a higher stage than the Lich over there?" Isabel's words hang in the air, but Lucas's gaze is distant, his expression unreadable. She urges him to move away, sensing the lingering magical residue. As he silently reflects on the path he'd chosen, a path he now knows he couldn't have avoided. He stands amidst the debris, his body still reeling from the exertion. His hand trembling slightly, feeling as though it might tear apart from the sheer strain of canceling the Lich's magic. Suddenly, the oppressive aura of the Lich manifests, a colossal, shadowy figure looming over him. And Lucas, dwarfed by its presence, defiantly declares his unwavering resolve. The Lich's glowing eyes narrow, its voice echoing with dark amusement, wondering aloud how such excellent material could appear before it. Its massive, skeletal form dominates the void, a chilling testament to its power. He listens intently as the chilling voice of the Lich echoes, claiming to be an existence humans praise and applaud as God. But a flicker of defiance crosses his eyes. As the pirate captain, a gruff man with a weathered face, interjects, declaring he has never applauded or praised such an entity. A slight smirk plays on his lips, as he dismisses the Lich's grandiosity. He then shifts the conversation, his expression growing serious as he speaks of the children who were passed through the dangerous Oskal archipelago, implying a recent rescue operation. His hand rests over his heart, a gesture of genuine concern, as he asks if they should have simply stood by and done nothing. On the deck of a ship, Lucas Troman, Isabel, and the pirate first mate observe a crowd of rescued children, their faces reflecting the gravity of the situation, as the captain's words resonate. "Because everybody's human. We see our own children in them." The pirate captain, his conviction unwavering, adds, "Of course, we'll request the appropriate compensation for your safety." Elsewhere, the gray-haired observer, Lord Peruan, watches the scene unfold, a knowing look on his face as he concludes, "So it was indeed for money." Lucas Troman stands before the pirate captain, his expression unyielding. He makes his demand clear, insisting that he be the only one to remain. The pirate captain, however, remains unmoved, explaining that the gym hooks will pay him double the amount he's asking today, and therefore, he cannot release the other children. Lucas questions his sanity, but the captain simply reveals their trump card. The undying being Lord Dullard is with them. The pirate captain continues, laying out his cold, mercenary logic. They could take Lucas's offer, then sell the children for even more profit, leaving no reason to listen to him. Lucas acknowledges the grim reality of the situation, a single word escaping his lips. He then states, with a hint of resignation, that he is not strong enough to face the lich they bring. However, as blue magical energy begins to crackle around his hand, his tone shifts. His eyes glowing with fierce blue light, he declares his confidence. He stands firm, a faint blue energy shimmering around his form, declaring his intent to drag his adversaries into the afterlife with him. Eliciting a grunt of frustration from the pirate captain. From a distance, a gray-haired woman observes the unfolding scene with a thoughtful expression. His eyes glowing with resolve, he adds that he's starting to enjoy the prospect more and more. Indeed, a narrator notes, such impressive spirit is rare for someone his age. Nearby, Isabel and the gray-haired observer watch, one remarking on the courageous fellow's bright future, while the other questions the sudden shift in atmosphere. Suddenly, a monstrous maw with glowing teeth appears, its voice booming a defiant refusal. But before the lich can act, Lucas unleashes a torrent of dark, purple energy, engulfing the shadowy figure as he declares its mana tastes wonderful at its current level. The platform beneath them cracks and shatters under the immense pressure of the surging power. Despite the overwhelming dark energy consuming him, Lord Goulard defiantly declares his intent to drain his opponent's power to the last drop, planning to use that mana to create an undead servant. But bound by shadowy tendrils, his eyes glowing with an eerie blue light, Lucas Troman counters with a chilling revelation. The lich's power is already his. Witnessing the magical upheaval, the pirate captain, his face contorted in a grimace, realizes that any pretense of negotiation has utterly collapsed. With a fierce snarl, he barks orders to his crew. Every single one of them is to be brought onto his ship. Meanwhile, Lucas Troman plummets from the sky, a helpless cry escaping him, as his companions, Isabel and the gray-haired observer, stand on the deck, surrounded by the encroaching pirates. One of the pirates, caught in the sudden chaos, lets out a terrified shriek, pleading for rescue. On the ship's deck, Isabel, David, and the gray-haired observer are forcibly restrained, their struggles futile against the numerous pirate crew. Still plummeting, Lucas Troman groans in discomfort, as his allies remain captive below. From a hidden vantage point, a sinister, hooded figure with a skeletal grin observes the unfolding events, praising the pirates for a job well done. From the depths of a dark, empty eye socket, a sinister voice whispers, "Wow, what an extremely cute one." Meanwhile, Isabel clutches David, who remains unconscious in her arms. On the deck of their ship, the pirate captain gestures towards the pair, calling out to his first mate. "Want to go grab some way over there?" He adds with a smirk, "Don't worry, I'm not a bad man." Nearby, the gray-haired observer, clearly annoyed by his own captor, mutters, "Could the wig in front of me move a little bit to the side?" As the pirates secure their prizes, Isabel and David are carried away to the left, with the gray-haired observer following, moving to the right. His irritation grows, a sharp glare hardening his features. The captain, noticing the captive's defiant stare, remarks, "Just no eyes. Bad attitude." He chuckles, "Haha, somehow this feels. Time for a hostage, isn't it?" The captain concludes, confirming, "No can do about that. It's the real deal." He looks up at his captor, his voice firm. "You come to me." The pirate captain, his back to the viewer, retorts, "Who are you to order me to come and go?" Isabel, tied beside David and the gray-haired man, gasps in fear. "What did he say?" The captain's face contorts in a snarl. "Don't play games, Fry. Did you forget the grace of your decent job? You're a hostage, a fucking hostage." Meanwhile, the hooded lich minion observes from a distance, a chilling thought echoing. "Oh, you look like you do not see me here." The pirate captain slams his foot down on the wooden deck, the impact splintering the planks. He leans closer to the defiant captive. "Do you know who pays up in situations like this?" His face is a mask of fury, his gaze fixed on the gray-haired man. Yet, the captive meets his eyes with unwavering resolve, bound but unbroken. He stares back at his captors, a defiant sneer on his face, declaring them to be the ones who truly cannot read the mood. His words barely register before the hooded lich minion, enraged by the insolence, raises a wicked staff, bringing it down with brutal force upon the kneeling Isabel. The impact sends a shockwave of red energy, and a pained cry escapes her lips. Her face contorts in agony, eyes squeezed shut against the searing pain. Suddenly, a monstrous shadow beast materializes, its gaping maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. Before it can fully emerge, Lucas Troman, his body wreathed in a brilliant blue aura, launches himself forward, striking the beast with a powerful, glowing attack. Yet, the beast's counter is swift and brutal, sending him flying backward, a burst of white energy erupting around him. He plummets through the air, his momentum carrying him further down. Watching the scene unfold, the gray-haired man offers a knowing, smug smile, a quiet, sarcastic remark escaping his lips. In a tender moment, Lucas Troman gazes down at a young woman, her eyes reflecting a soft affection as she looks up at him. Embracing her tightly, he asks if joining her guild would make her happy, to which she responds with an emphatic, extremely happy. A massive pirate ship lists heavily in the water, its hull rent by a powerful magical explosion that sends icy blue shards of energy spraying into the air. From a distance, a young woman with fiery red hair watches the chaos unfold, asking aloud, "What was that fight? Isn't that Fry?" Standing beside her, the blonde-haired mage confirms with a proud smile, "Our academy's eternal pride." Now on the deck of the damaged pirate vessel, Fry surveys the scene, his gaze sharp and assessing. A thought crossing his mind about the recent display of power. That move just now. Before his opponent's blade can even descend, the young mage moves with impossible speed, kicking him without any amplification of mana. It is an incredible speed that few can barely follow. His leg glows with raw kinetic energy as the impact sends the pirate reeling. As the dust settled on the pirate ship, Peruin, still observing from a distance, mused. He had been aware of Frey's talent, but to think he could manipulate mana to such an unbelievable extent was truly astonishing. Isabel, looking up at him with a worried expression, cautioned him to be careful, her voice laced with concern. Her gaze, filled with apprehension, reflected the gravity of the situation unfolding before them. The older man, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder, calmly stated that none of them were stronger than Fry, his words carrying a quiet confidence despite the unfolding chaos. He continued, advising her that she should be able to control her own body, and that he hadn't realized she had grown so much. Isabel looked back at him, a slight blush on her cheeks, as if surprised by his observation. Meanwhile, on the deck of the pirate ship, Fry moved with purpose, his figure a stark contrast to the disarray around him. Peruin's hand clenched slightly, his gaze still fixed on the distant vessel. On the ship, David and the other pirates looked around in utter confusion, wondering what had just transpired. The pirate first mate grumbles, frustrated by a one-eyed superior, perhaps the captain, as he mutters about being tricked. Suddenly, Lucas Troman strikes, a surge of blue mana erupting from him, sending the pirate recoiling. The pirate cries out in shock and confusion, unable to comprehend the sudden assault. But before Lucas Troman can press his advantage, a new, sinister presence emerges, a hooded figure with eyes glowing an ominous red. A crimson orb of energy, moving with impossible speed, launches from the figure's hand. It strikes with devastating force, tearing through the air and sending debris flying. The pirate first mate cries out in agony, caught in the periphery of the blast. Lucas Troman himself is thrown back, a pained gasp escaping him as the blue mana around him flickers and dissipates. Still reeling from the unexpected magical blast, the pirate first mate cries out in pain. As Lucas's eyes glow with renewed resolve, his voice cutting through the chaos. He declares that despite his appearance, he has never killed a human before, but quickly adds that he doesn't consider them human anyway. Enraged, the pirate captain bellows in order to kill him. And Lucas's pale blue eyes intensify, a surge of power erupting around him. The first pirate to charge is instantly thrown back by an invisible force, as Lucas unleashes a torrent of wind magic, sweeping through the deck and sending multiple attackers flying. Lucas Troman unleashes a torrent of azure energy, a swirling vortex of wind magic erupting around him. The powerful blast expands, engulfing the surrounding pirates in its violent, ethereal currents. Yet, the pirate captain, seemingly unfazed, bellows a defiant order. Take this finger attack. His crew, however, can only stare in wide-eyed terror, their faces contorted in fear. Ignoring their futile resistance, Lucas gathers another, more concentrated sphere of brilliant blue energy, crackling with raw power. He then unleashes it, sending forth multiple piercing projectiles that slice through the air. From a distance, the hooded lich minion watches, a single word escaping his lips, "Possible," as the pirate first mate beside him recoils in pain. The pirates are sent flying backward, their bodies twisting midair from the sheer force of the impacts, cries of "URGH" echoing through the chaos. Lucas Troman continues his relentless assault, proving that all those pirates are simply no match for his overwhelming strength. As Lucas's overwhelming power continued to decimate the pirate ranks, cries of alarm echoed across the deck. The pirate captain, his face contorted in a snarl, tightened his grip on Isabel, who struggled against him. His eyes burned with a desperate fury, realizing the futility of their resistance. Before he could even formulate a plan, Lucas was already in motion, a blur of blue energy arcing through the air directly towards him. A sharp, cutting gust of wind magic erupted from his form, striking the captain with immense force and sending Isabel tumbling free as Lucas landed with a ground-shattering impact. The captain's face contorted in a silent scream of shock and pain, as Lucas followed up with a devastating kick, imbued with the same fierce blue energy. The force sent him flying across the deck, a broken figure against the chaos. As the chaos continued on the ship's deck, Lucas moved like a blur, a whirlwind of motion amidst the struggling pirates, sending one airborne with a precise strike. Another pirate reeled from an unseen impact, his body twisting awkwardly as he was thrown upwards. A third cried out in pain, collapsing onto the wooden planks as Lucas continued his relentless assault. His arm, now glowing with a faint blue light, prepared for the next devastating blow. Standing over the fallen, Lucas surveyed the scene, while Isabel watched from a safe distance, and one pirate, still defiant, shouted, "Why are you killing each other, you idiots? I'll kill him." His face contorted in a desperate snarl, the pirate vowed to take Lucas down. Ignoring the futile threat, Lucas extended his hands, a powerful vortex of blue wind magic swirling around him, ready to engulf his remaining foes. The defiant pirate's bravado instantly vanished, replaced by a scream of terror as he realized the true power he faced. With eyes glowing with intense blue energy, Lucas unleashed the full force of his wind magic, a devastating torrent that swept across the deck. The pirate's face contorts in agony as the powerful wind spell engulfs him, the blue magical energy swirling violently around him. Tearing at his form, the force of the attack rips through the deck, sending splinters and debris flying. Lucas steps forward, his foot landing softly amidst the dissipating magical storm. He stands calmly, the last vestiges of the wind magic swirling around him, the deck now a scene of destruction. From a short distance, Ryan watches the aftermath, his expression unreadable. Isabel recoils in horror, crying out at the display of power, while David steps forward, his face etched with anger. He confronts Lucas, demanding he cease his actions, daring him to even twitch a muscle. As the dust settled from Lucas's devastating spell, a pirate, still defiant, held Isabel captive, threatening to end her life. Ryan watched the scene unfold, his expression unreadable. David, already agitated, demanded to know what the pirate intended. But before the pirate could respond, his eyes widened in sudden terror. His gaze sharpened, a surge of lightning igniting within his eyes. And the pirate's face contorted in agony as the electrical current coursed through him. A blinding flash of blue light engulfed the struggling man, his screams echoing across the ravaged deck. His lightning-infused fist connects with brutal force, sending a shockwave through the air. But before he can fully recover, shadowy tendrils erupt from the ground, swiftly binding him. A chilling purple aura emanates from a hooded figure, who stands beside the imposing pirate captain, both now confronting him. The pirate he had just struck recoils in terror, while Isabel and the gray-haired observer watch the sudden turn of events with wide eyes. "Are my skills?" Isabel questions, her voice laced with disbelief. The gray-haired observer simply murmurs, "This kid." Lord Peruin and Isabel watch intently, a tense silence hanging between them as they listen to the pirate's words. The pirate captain, a burly man with a receding hairline, gestures broadly, proclaiming that he's never applauded or praised the entity they speak of. A booming laugh escapes him, his mirth echoing across the deck. His first mate, a man with stubble and a bandana, watches him with a serious expression, his gaze unwavering. The captain then turns to his subordinate, proposing a deal. From their vantage point, Lord Peruin responds, acknowledging the captain's words but questioning the true cost of such an arrangement. He watches as the pirate captain, with a predatory grin, declares his terms, half. The captain gestures to the bound figures, including Isabel and David, proposing to take exactly half of them, then asks, "How about that deal?" A deep concern etches itself onto the observer's face as he processes the implications of such a deal. The captain then calls out to someone named Bonnie, while Isabel, tied and helpless, whispers her refusal, "I don't want to." The pirate leader, undeterred, explains his twisted logic, claiming it would be a favor to them while expanding his own crew. He flashes a wide, unsettling smile, assuring them it's a win-win situation, brother. The observer's thoughts betray his disgust, finding the captain truly rotten to the core, as he questions the audacity of calling it a win-win when it means giving up his own crew. The captain continues, instructing them that they can personally decide who to keep. He reiterates the condition, emphasizing that it will be exactly half of them. A desperate plea escapes Lucas Troman's lips, his voice strained as he calls out to the man before him. He begs, addressing the gray-haired observer as Fry, imploring him to choose him. With a look of intense urgency, Lucas continues, "I'm begging you, please choose me." He promises to tell him everything he knows about the pirates, if only he would choose him. The gray-haired observer, however, remains impassive, his expression unyielding as Lucas adds that he'll do anything if it's not enough. Meanwhile, Isabel and David, bound and helpless, can only watch the unfolding drama with fear in their eyes. The pirate captain, looming over the tied-up group, reiterates his terms, declaring that he will take exactly half of them. The gray-haired observer, unmoved by Lucas's pleas or the captain's threats, simply dismisses him, stating that he doesn't need him. His gaze remains distant and cold, a clear sign of his unwavering decision. The pirate captain, his face contorted in a sneer, surveys the bound captives, demanding to know why he's being presented with mere children and an auction. Meanwhile, Lucas, still desperate, pleads with Lord Peruin, offering himself as more valuable than the others, but Peruin coldly dismisses his worth, stating it's not about the Troman family's long history. The surrounding pirates react with visible shock and fear to the exchange. The captain, enraged by Lucas's audacity, scoffs at the idea of him ever becoming a minister. He then turns his attention to Isabel, mocking phrase passed in action and questioning his value, while Isabel silently wonders who will truly bring the most bandits. Peruin, growing weary of the spectacle, curtly tells them to stop, complaining about the noise. As he begins to walk away, Lucas calls out, urging him to consider the situation more deeply. But Peruin merely dismisses him again, complaining about the heat and humidity of the sea. The pirate captain, observing the interaction, mutters about the brats' ignorance of money and hard work, though he acknowledges it's their family's problem. A collective gasp of disbelief ripples through the gathered captives, their faces etched with horror at the callous disregard shown by the noble. Lord Peruin, however, remains unmoved, his voice dripping with disdain as he questions, "Is that how a mage acts?" Isabel, her eyes wide with fear, can only think of the grim reality. No matter how much they plead, a mage like Peruin would never protect them. Her face contorts in anguish as the pirate captain's mocking voice cuts through the air. "So how much are you willing to pay again?" Peruin turns his back on the desperate pleas, dismissing the entire situation as disgusting, and walks away, leaving Lucas and the others bound and helpless. The pirate captain's face hardens, his patience clearly at an end. As in a different, shadowy realm, a monstrous shadow beast erupts with dark energy, crushing a robed figure in its grasp. Lord Goulard, the Lich, observes the brutal display, green smoke swirling around his skull-like head as his red eyes glow with malevolent amusement, wondering if this bonehead could truly stand against him. He scoffs at the thought, declaring with absolute certainty, "Nonsense. There is no human I cannot." The pirate captain finds himself face-to-face with a monstrous shadow beast, its glowing red eyes fixed on him, as he struggles to comprehend the unfolding horror. A chilling realization dawns on him, as he wonders if his very thoughts are being laid bare, questioning why the creature's gaze seems to pierce his mind. Meanwhile, Lord Goulard, shrouded in a sinister purple aura, acknowledges the need for caution, even in his own thoughts, lest they be exploited. From a different vantage point, the gray-haired observer, with Isabel beside him, notes the unprecedented glow of mana emanating from the conflict, recognizing the opponent as a formidable warrior. Yet, despite the impressive display, he dismisses the warrior's ultimate potential, labeling him as merely a 5-star in the grand scheme of things. Back at the heart of the confrontation, the shadow beast lies impaled by a glowing red spear, as Lord Goulard stands triumphant, declaring that no one can conquer him. Purple energy crackles around the creature's form. Observing the unfolding power, Isabel voices her long-held suspicion, confirming her distrust of Goulard. With a menacing glare, the Lich asserts his dominance, reminding his unseen opponent that countless magic warriors like them have already fallen by his hand. A monstrous maw opens wide, its shadowy depths echoing with a chilling command. "Give up and be mine," it bellows, as a surge of purple energy erupts from the darkness, revealing Lucas Troman, who unleashes a devastating, living missile in retaliation. From a distance, Isabel gasps, recognizing the sheer force of the spell. As Lucas presses his assault, his voice cutting through the chaos with a single, sharp command. "Die." The gray-haired observer watches, his expression grim as the immense magical energy washes over him. The purple aura of the spell swirling around him, a silent testament to the power being wielded. His living missile attack, a torrent of sharp, purple energy, streaks forward, closing the distance with incredible speed. "Be careful, Fry," Isabel cries out, her voice laced with urgency. Lucas, surrounded by a vibrant purple aura, acknowledges the persistent threat. "I know," he responds, bracing himself. The gray-haired observer watches, a bead of sweat tracing his temple. "Dangerous," he murmurs. The shadow beast, however, seems to absorb the magical assault, its form distorting as the narration explains its ability to consume magic. Then, with a guttural roar, its massive maw opens wide, revealing rows of jagged, bone-like teeth. Shadowy tendrils erupt, ensnaring Lucas and pulling him closer. More dark, spectral hands burst forth from the ground, reaching for him, threatening to drag him into the abyss. As Lucas Troman remained trapped, the gray-haired observer unleashed a torrent of vibrant purple energy, his intervention swift and decisive. His eyes narrowed, fixed intently on the unfolding crisis. Yet, the shadow beast's tendrils, undeterred, lashed out with renewed aggression. Lucas Troman continued to struggle against their grip, a desperate thought echoing in his mind. "That's the only way." Isabel watched, her face contorted in a gasp of terror. As the observer cried out, a powerful surge of purple energy erupted, accompanied by the urgent shout of "Fry." The magical force coalesced, forming an intricate, glowing symbol of immense power. From the shattered ground, a monstrous shadow beast erupts, its form coalescing into menacing tendrils of dark energy. Before Lucas Troman can react, the shadowy tendrils lash out, striking him with brutal force and eliciting a pained cry. The relentless assault continues, pushing him back as another figure watches in alarm. With a surge of resolve, Isabel unleashes a torrent of ice magic, her hands glowing with a vibrant blue aura. Her gaze sharpens, her eye burning with a fierce, crimson glow as she focuses her power. Despite Isabel's intervention, the shadow beast's attack sends Lucas Troman flying through the air, his body tumbling helplessly. Amidst the splintered wreckage of what was once a dock, a desperate cry echoes, calling out for Fry. From the deck of a nearby ship, Isabel and David frantically search the devastation, their voices strained with urgency as they plead for an answer from him. But Lucas Troman lies motionless, his body battered and unresponsive, a stark testament to the Shadow Beast's brutal assault. As if to punctuate its victory, razor-sharp spikes of dark energy materialize from the air, streaking forward with lethal intent. The Shadow Beast itself emerges from the gloom, its skeletal face and glowing red eyes a chilling declaration of its continued presence. It flexes, a surge of dark power rippling around its form, ready to unleash another devastating blow. More of the deadly purple projectiles launch, tearing through the air with incredible speed. One such spike embeds itself deep into the ground, the Shadow Beast standing triumphantly over its impact point. A low, guttural sound escapes its form, a dismissive humph, echoing its contempt for its adversaries. A voice echoes in Lucas Troman's mind, proclaiming itself as the divine being humans praise, but he dismisses it, asserting his own defiance. Meanwhile, a powerful surge of purple energy envelopes him, his form beginning to shift and glow with an ominous light. The transformation culminates in a violent explosion of energy, shattering outwards as his new, armored silhouette takes shape. Confused, he wonders how this could have happened, realizing the attack should have targeted the gray-haired magic warrior instead of him. His glowing red eye narrows as he ponders why the attack didn't simply dissipate once its intended target was supposedly eliminated. Now standing in his new, formidable form, he is observed by Lord Peruin, who watches with an unreadable expression. Nearby, Isabel and David stare in wide-eyed shock, utterly stunned by the sudden and dramatic change. David, recovering slightly, calls out to him, his voice laced with concern as he asks if Fry is all right. The two stand close, the transformed Lucas Troman's armored leg next to David's civilian attire, a stark contrast highlighting the profound shift in their situation. The monstrous Shadow Beast recoils, its glowing red eyes widening in utter shock. He had moved with such impossible speed, dodging every attack from the shadowy figures, appearing behind them in an instant, a feat they couldn't even perceive. A sharp, decisive strike echoes through the air, as the transformed Lucas Troman sends one of the beasts flying. The beast's internal monologue reveals its utter confusion, unable to comprehend how he had not merely dodged, but calculated 3 different predictions at once. Such a feat was beyond its understanding, something a mere human should never be capable of. Lord Peruin watches the scene unfold, his expression unreadable as the transformed Lucas stands victorious. Isabel, however, cannot hide her concern, calling out to him, asking if he is all right. Lord Peruin remains silent, his gaze fixed on the powerful figure before him. Isabel, still visibly worried, continues to watch him intently. His pale blue eyes, now glowing with an inner light, reflect a profound intensity, as a subtle smirk plays upon his lips. Elsewhere, Isabel's wide, blue eye is filled with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Standing beside Lord Peruin, Lucas remains composed. While Isabel's gaze remains fixed, her concern palpable. Suddenly, Lucas looks upward, his expression shifting to one of surprise as a swirling purple vortex manifests above them, wondering aloud what those could be. From within the vortex, numerous crystalline blue ice spears descend rapidly. This prompts the pirate with glasses to question Lord Peruin, asking if he is truly certain that this new development can be trusted. A figure in sleek black armor, its eyes glowing crimson, senses a profound unease, contemplating the destruction of the ship for safety. Before any action can be taken, a massive explosion of ice and raw energy erupts. There is no time left to react, as a red, pulsating orb emerges from a swirling purple vortex high above, signaling the true source of the devastating attack. From it, countless ice spears rain down upon the ship below, leaving observers to question the monstrous mana behind such a force. But before the destruction can spread, Lucas Troman's hand reaches out, glowing with an ethereal blue light. He stands firm, a powerful blue magical aura flaring around him, creating a protective barrier against the incoming assault. Yet, the monstrous Shadow Beast, its skeletal form impaled by ice shards and eyes glowing red, finds itself bleeding and utterly immobilized, unable to comprehend the unbelievable force that has struck it. Lucas Troman, his expression resolute, identifies the attack as a single spear, while Isabel looks on, her face etched with concern, wondering just who could be behind such a devastating strike. The focus then shifts to the glowing purple ice spear itself, a testament to the immense magical power unleashed. Even as the purple vortex pulsed ominously, the Shadow Beast could only snarl, "You, lowly human." The sheer scale of the ice spear descending from it made Lucas Troman's eyes widen, realizing, "That's an ice spear of an inconceivable size." A chilling voice then echoed from the vortex, "Die, human." The monstrous Shadow Beast, already wounded, found its legs impaled by the relentless ice shards, scattering glowing particles around it. Meanwhile, Lucas Troman, his expression hardening, planted his feet firmly, preparing to face the onslaught. He took a decisive step forward. As a colossal ice spear, glowing with frigid energy, plunged from the vortex, followed by a barrage that slammed into the ship below. The relentless barrage of ice spears continues, striking the shadow beast with brutal force, each impact sending shimmering particles of purple energy into the air. More crystalline projectiles descend from the frigid sky, their sharp edges glinting with a cold, blue light. The monstrous figure recoils, its shadowy form writhing under the assault, as Lord Peruin watches the devastating display unfold. Suddenly, the focus of the attack shifts, and colossal ice shards streak through the air, aimed directly at a nearby pirate ship. On its deck, the pirate captain and his crew look up in terror, their faces etched with disbelief as the icy doom descends. The ship is instantly engulfed, trapped within a massive, glowing blue tunnel of ice. Lord Goulard, his eyes now burning with a malevolent red glow, speaks to Lord Peruin, declaring that this display of power could rival even him, before adding, "Yes, because you're in the path." Peruin, taken aback, questions his words, asking if Goulard is implying he can see the path of the ice spear itself. A confident figure with flowing gray hair stands, a slight smirk playing on his lips, musing that while he was eager to display his newfound strength, he might have to wait a little longer. Below him, the monstrous shadow beast, its mechanical frame glowing with malevolent red light, demands to know his identity. It continues, questioning if he is Fry Blake, the eternal loser of Westwood Academy, or so the rumors claim. The gray-haired man, now floating effortlessly above the beast, echoes its words with a dismissive tone, or so they say. His eyes flare with a brilliant golden light as he declares his true name, Lucas Trauman. He continues, asserting his purpose as one who has returned to educate crazy lads like the beast before him. His voice ringing with undeniable authority as he proclaims himself history's strongest mage. Elsewhere, Lucas addresses a red-haired man, stating he can't have him thinking he's Fry Blake, while the red-haired man, looking on, wonders what they could be discussing. Both the red-haired man and the shadow beast react with utter disbelief, exclaiming at the sheer nonsense of the situation. Overwhelmed by dark, swirling energy, Lucas Trauman finds himself caught in a brutal assault, the sheer force of the attack making one wonder if he could possibly survive. His attacker, the shadow beast, looms over him, a mocking voice echoing, "Indeed, you look prettier from behind." Without pause, the beast unleashes a concentrated blast of blue energy, tendrils of darkness lashing out to strike its target. The impact sends a sharp pain through Lucas, a spray of crimson indicating internal damage. He groans, the agony evident on his face, as the shadow beast continues its relentless assault. The shadow beast then shifts its focus, holding up a glowing green, life vessel, and confirms its intact state. "As long as you're intact, you're correct." Now appearing as a menacing skull with glowing red eyes, the beast muses. "Its location varies depending on where it's located, so it'll take me a while to find its exact position." A sudden realization then strikes it. "Wait, eh?" Before the shadow beast can react, Lucas Trauman unleashes a powerful counterattack, a surge of white and blue energy erupting from him. The powerful white energy of Lucas Trauman's counterattack slams into the shadow beast, cracking its skull-like head and causing its single red eye to flicker and dim. The force continues to tear through its monstrous form, ripping the shadowy mass apart as particles of dark energy scatter into the air. Above the dissipating remnants, Lucas Trauman floats calmly, his gray hair flowing around him as trails of white energy still emanate from his form. His pale blue eyes, glowing faintly, survey the scene with a cool, unwavering gaze. Below, two observers stare in disbelief, one with red hair, the other blonde, as a voice whispers, "He actually defeated him." Nearby, two other figures, one in a green helmet and another with a dark beard, also react with wide-eyed astonishment. The bearded man, unable to reconcile what he's seen, exclaims, "Huh? Why did you say that? Aren't you supposed to be an undying shadow beast?" As if in response to his desperate question, the shadowy particles of the beast begin to swirl and coalesce, its menacing form reforming with a renewed, crimson glow in its eye, much to the horror of the distant observers. From another vantage point, a hand clad in a red coat rests on a sword hilt, the pirate captain silently observing the unfolding, impossible spectacle. As the monstrous shadow reforms, a grizzled man stares in disbelief, his voice laced with resignation, knowing there's no longer any point in discussion. His golden hair now a stark white, Lucas Trauman's eyes burn with a fierce, cold resolve as he declares, "Every one of you will die here." A grim sight unfolds, a bearded man slumped and bleeding, his life seemingly extinguished amidst the ruins. Elsewhere, a cloaked figure sits in quiet contemplation, their face hidden as they absorb the words from an open book. Suddenly, the air crackles with energy as the gray-haired mage, Lord Peruin, unleashes a surge of power, his form radiating with a vibrant, ethereal glow. His sharp, blue gaze pierces through the darkness, focused and resolute. A formidable group stands united, Lucas Trauman, the pirate captain, Isabel, and the pirate with glasses, their collective presence a beacon of strength against unseen threats. But Isabel's eyes widen in sudden, profound shock, her expression reflecting a terrifying revelation. A heavy, bruised sky hangs over the horizon. casting a somber light upon a grand, multi-masted ship now docked at a bustling pier, where a few figures move about, dwarfed by its imposing size. Nearby, a man with silver hair observes the scene, remarking, "That was some extraordinary prowess." He stands with Isabel and Lucas Troman, the three of them a silent tableau against the backdrop of the ship. Isabel, her expression troubled, seems to be responding to a question, her words barely audible as she asks, unhurried what? Lord Peruin listens intently, his gaze unwavering. Overwhelmed, Isabel bows deeply before him, her form almost touching the ground, while Lucas watches on, a silent witness to her distress. She implores him, "Please don't be like this, prithee, raise your head." Lord Peruin looks down at her, his expression unreadable. Lord Peruin's touch lingers on Lucas Troman's cheek, eliciting a pained tch from the young man. His gaze piercing, Lord Peruin declares that Lucas's origins must be tied to the Lich's magic, while Isabel watches on with concern. Despite the revelation, Lucas insists he is all right. A slight smile playing on his lips, Lord Peruin remarks that he feels refreshed after removing the dirty blood, prompting Lucas to tell him to stop bluffing. Isabel, clearly annoyed by Lord Peruin's teasing, chides him for being rude to Lucas in his own house. The scene shifts to an overhead view of a bustling town, a name echoing through the air, Fry. As the view lingers over the rooftops, a voice questions what exactly happened. Two figures walk along a path, one remarking on how easily a lich was defeated, a feat even court magicians would struggle with. The speaker continues, revealing the true name of the blonde figure beside him, Fry Blake, known as the most talented trainee in the history of Westwood. He had only risen to prominence in the last 2 weeks, making others wonder where he had been concealing his abilities all this time. Lord Peruin simply states that life has a way of revealing all sorts of things. A sentiment he reiterates. As both men exchange a knowing glance. With a slight shrug, Lucas concedes that this is indeed true. Lord Peruin then extends an invitation, asking if he would visit his house sometime, explaining that he wishes to properly express his gratitude. As Peruin and Isabel begin to depart, the Lord mentions that a personal invitation from the Troman house is considered a great honor. He confirms his availability for the Troman house invitation, adding a casual, "if I have time." Meanwhile, Peruin, with a knowing smirk, winks, holding up a finger as if sharing a secret. The June house, a place of such immense power that countless nobles vie for even the slightest acknowledgement, is described as a fortress of influence. Isabel gasps, the realization of the situation hitting her. Peruin then shows Lucas something on a small device, eliciting a surprised exclamation from the young man. Isabel, clearly exasperated, questions Peruin's motives, while he remains focused on the device. Her frustration mounts as she demands to know how Lucas, a magic practitioner, could possibly be asking for money. Peruin playfully teases Lucas about his apparent lack of funds, causing him to look away in embarrassment. Lucas, flustered, attempts to explain his financial predicament, hands raised in a gesture of confusion. He considers the cost of the warp stone a necessary expense for his journey, knowing it will be quite expensive. As he ponders, Lord Peruin extends a hand, offering assistance, while Isabel watches, surprised by the gesture. The offer is substantial, a gleaming pile of 300 gold coins, a fortune in his hands. Yet, he dismisses it casually, stating that 20 gold would suffice, and tells Peruin to keep the change, much to the other man's amusement. Peruin, finding his nonchalance endearing, playfully calls him a noble kid, a hint of mischief in his eyes. He then explains that while he wishes to invite him immediately, they are currently in the midst of marriage talks for his fiancée. Meanwhile, on a bustling street, Isabel and David discuss the June house's influence, noting that many nobles seek their favor, making their decisions impactful. Back with Peruin, he continues to tease Lucas about his financial situation, suggesting his father would be making decisions for him, much to Isabel's visible annoyance. A subtle, knowing smile plays on Peruin's lips, his eyes holding a deeper, unreadable intent. Lord Peruin, with a knowing smirk, asks Lucas if he has an older sister. Dismissing the question with a wave of his hand, Peruin declares that he's perfectly fine with the current count of something, before playfully urging Lucas to please act moderately. He then adds that Lucas's sister is the daughter of the June house, a comment that Isabel and David overhear with keen interest. Peruin continues, musing about Lucas's family being an impressive household that has birthed countless skilled knights, though he's not sure if they'll get along with him. Lucas simply listens, his expression unreadable as Peruin's words hang in the air. Meanwhile, Isabel, having heard enough, asserts to David that Lucas is not weak, defending him against Peruin's veiled criticisms. Back with the two men, Lucas turns his gaze toward Peruin, a hint of annoyance in his eyes. Unfazed, Peruin continues his teasing, commenting that Lucas already has that handsome face of his. Then, with a final, smug expression, Peruin adds, "Oh right, contact my older sister in a month," leaving Lucas with a new, unexpected task. He calls out to Fry, a playful accusation in his tone, wondering if his mind is only filled with trivial thoughts. Lucas, caught off guard, can only offer a slight smirk in response. Isabel lets out a soft scoff, while David watches on, as Peruin bursts into hearty laughter, clearly enjoying the exchange. Lucas, a hand to his head, chuckles along, a mix of amusement and slight embarrassment on his face. Peruin continues to laugh, remarking that it's been a long time since he's laughed like this, before affectionately calling Lucas a jolly friend. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows over the stone bridge and the town beyond, Peruin announces his departure, telling Fry he will take his leave now. He then reminds Lucas of his obligation to visit the June house, adding that he wouldn't want to be seen as someone who can't show gratitude. Lucas, with a sigh of resignation, agrees that he guesses he'll have time for the visit, as Peruin, Isabel, and David watch him go. Lucas Troman's expression remains unreadable, his thoughts hidden behind a calm facade. Meanwhile, Lord Peruin wears a subtle smirk, clearly pleased with the outcome of their conversation. And Isabel watches them both, a hint of curiosity in her gaze. Such a good sight, she muses, a blush rising to her cheeks. As they begin to walk away, it's almost as if Peruin is deliberately trying to provoke a reaction. Such a good noble should be like, he remarks, prompting Isabel to agree. He indeed is splendid. The Lord continues, noting that Lucas even has such deep pockets, a comment that makes Isabel's backpack click with a soft sound. Peruin then questions her reaction, as Isabel trembles slightly, perhaps from embarrassment or frustration. Lucas, having overheard their entire conversation, finally snaps. Well, I'm terribly sorry for being penniless. Under the soft glow of a full moon, a sturdy stone bridge arches gracefully over a tranquil river, its waters reflecting the celestial light as two distant figures stand silently upon its crest. Lucas Troman, suspended in a dark void, defiantly proclaims his independence from any divine praise or worship. Meanwhile, Isabel, now adorned in a striking red and black robe, strikes a confident, almost theatrical pose. The gray-haired observer, his expression a mix of surprise and annoyance, seems to be processing her appearance. Isabel, still holding her pose, challenges him for his opinion, but he bluntly questions her choice of such elaborate, fluffy attire for dungeon training, advising her to opt for lighter, more practical clothing that allows for quick movement. Her face flushes with irritation, a visible pulse thrumming at her temple. Isabel's anger flares, demanding to know why he is the one getting upset. Standing next to her, the gray-haired observer dryly comments that her companion isn't accustomed to a more modest way of life, causing Isabel to silently regret bringing him along. The bustling streets of a vibrant city unfold, its architecture a testament to human ingenuity. Through its thoroughfares, a young woman with striking red hair and her gray-haired companion make their way, the latter marveling aloud at the urban landscape, finding it an amazing sight. She, however, internally bristles, recalling her own earlier praise for the city, and wonders if his continued astonishment is merely a slight. Noticing her mood, the gray-haired man questions if this is her first time seeing such a place, then asks directly if she is upset. As they travel further, perhaps by carriage, a narration reveals the presence of a warp stone, a legendary item the speaker is amazed to see for the first time. Yet, the red-haired woman dismisses the notion that these advancements are beyond her imagination, musing that things have barely changed in 4 millennia. Meanwhile, in a realm far removed, Lucas Troman floats amidst the cosmic expanse, contemplating the possibility that a demigod deliberately hindered humanity's progress. He ponders the reason for such an act, a deep unease settling over him as he senses something fundamentally wrong with the very fabric of this world. Isabel and the gray-haired observer stand before a grand structure, the observer realizing with a start that the warp stone they are about to use is actually an ancient relic, a fact that surprises Isabel. He simply shrugs, a casual, "oh well," escaping him, as if such a monumental discovery is merely a minor detail. With the warp stone now identified, the observer resolves to fully embrace his role in this new, unfamiliar world, even if it means playing along with its customs. They approach a vast, circular platform, the designated area for the warp. An automated voice echoes through the air, instructing all passengers to step outside the warp circle, a command the observer acknowledges with a thoughtful hum. As the warp stone begins to glow with vibrant energy, the observer exclaims in awe, realizing the stone itself provides the immense mana needed for the warp, a truly awesome sight. The warp circle fully activates, engulfing the area in shimmering light and arcane symbols. The observer, clearly affected by the warping sensation, lets out a strained groan, while Isabel, aware that warps can feel afterwards, urges him to calm down and not embarrass himself. Her blue eye narrows in exasperation as she reiterates her plea for him to stop his dramatic display. The warp stone ignited, unleashing a blinding burst of brilliant blue light, which quickly coalesced into a streaking tunnel of energy, pulling them through distorted space. Within the vibrant blue trails, countless particles drifted, marking their rapid transit. As the journey neared its end, a circular platform began to materialize, bathed in a soft, golden glow, culminating in a final flash of light and a resonant impact as they arrived. The platform settled, its gentle luminescence illuminating the immediate area. Still disoriented from the sudden transition, the observer let out a soft, surprised sound. Before them lay a new city, its name, Hispania, confirming their successful arrival. Isabel's gaze swept over the unfamiliar architecture, taking in every detail of their new destination. The ancient lands remain untouched by time, a testament to 5 millennia of unchanging existence. Observing the desolate landscape, the gray-haired man turns, asking if they should proceed. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit shop, a man in a red tunic screams at another figure cowering on the floor, demanding they understand his words. Isabel, looking exasperated, wonders aloud if bringing her companion here was a mistake, before asking if they've found a place to eat. Her gray-haired companion, perhaps sharing the sentiment. Back in the shop, the old man continues to rummage through his wares, the sounds of his search echoing through the shelves. He pauses, a look of annoyance crossing his face as he surveys the chaos. Then, addressing the 2 newcomers, he introduces himself as Fry Blake, causing Isabel to react with surprise at the name. Isabel, utterly shocked, questions his actions, finding them unbelievable. He sighs, a hint of exasperation in his voice, asking how long it had been since he'd last had a drink. Isabel, hands on her hips, questions why the academy doesn't sell any beer, a rule that clearly annoys her. The shopkeeper explains the obvious reason: mages are simply not allowed to drink alcohol. He then adds that it's been 13 days since he last had a drink, claiming anyone over 13 days is exempt from the law, a statement Isabel immediately dismisses as nonsense. As he places a plate of food on their table, the shopkeeper then asks if they are mercenaries, his gaze sharp. A delicious aroma wafts from the freshly served dishes, filling the air. The shopkeeper continues, observing their intent to enter the tournament, and deduces they must be newcomers. The gray-haired man, holding a glass, challenges the shopkeeper's appearance and new name, questioning if he could even hurt a fly. He then takes a long, satisfying gulp from his large wooden mug, his eyes still fixed on the shopkeeper. Still in his shop, the old man muses that ambition is a privilege for the young, and not necessarily a bad thing. He then warns them that newcomers like them shouldn't challenge the Hispania Mountains. Isabel, however, retorts that she's heard it's a paradise for monsters, and they are well aware of its dangers. The shopkeeper's expression darkens as he snaps that they know nothing. Isabel, taken aback by his intensity, can only stare. She quickly recovers, however, and continues to enjoy her meal, finding it delicious. Wiping down a bottle, the shopkeeper then offers a quiet apology, explaining that he had a son just about their age. A flashback shows his son, David, standing before a grave, as the shopkeeper recalls always saying that he'd become a great mage, not a cocky boy. Back in the present, the shopkeeper's voice is heavy with sorrow as he concludes that his son died after challenging the Hispania Mountains. A wave of sympathy washes over her, and she murmurs, "I'm sorry." But Lucas quickly dismisses her pity, stating, "Don't worry. We don't talk about those who pity." He continues, recounting the tragic details of his son's last journey. He was escorting a merchant caravan when he went to gather medicinal herbs. The daughter alone returned to me and told me of his death. His gaze hardens as he warns them about the treacherous peaks, but you should give up on the Hispania Mountains. The mountains loom, a silent testament to his words, as he adds, even experienced mercenaries don't come out of there unscathed. His words hang heavy in the air, leaving Isabel wide-eyed with apprehension. Breaking the tension, Lucas takes a sip from his cup, a satisfied expression on his face as he declares, "Delicious." The gray-haired observer, however, remains focused on the dangers, asking, "Can you tell me about the monsters that appear in the mountain range?" Meanwhile, Isabel takes a tentative sip of her own drink, her face scrunching up in distaste as she complains, "This tastes weird." The observer looks on, a hint of concern or surprise crossing his features. "Goodness." A sharp expletive escapes Isabel, her face contorted in disgust from the drink. Meanwhile, Lucas Troman sighs, lamenting that he won't be able to sleep well tonight. Suddenly, a distinguished elderly man, Lord Peruin June, appears, holding a document. Both Isabel and the gray-haired observer look up at him, their attention now drawn to the newcomer. Isabel remains silent, her expression a mix of surprise and apprehension, as Lord Peruin June addresses her. She quickly apologizes for forgetting her place, then asks him how much her transgression will cost. Lord Peruin June dismisses her concern, assuring her there's no need for payment. Instead, he sternly questions if her brain works properly, a remark she seems to have heard countless times before. As the conversation continues, the night sky outside glows with the serene light of a full moon, casting its gentle luminescence over the world. From a dimly lit room, Lucas gazes out, reflecting on the food the old man once enjoyed, a dish from a place renowned for its sausages, though not to that particular elder. Later, standing high above the city with Isabel, he declares his intent to remember the taste of something. Then, with a slight impatience, commands that sausages be prepared, for the time has finally come. Meanwhile, Lord Peruin June, his expression sharp, anticipates something with a quiet intensity. Elsewhere, an older man with a stern countenance lets out a short, dry laugh. Under the vast, luminous full moon, a serene mountain range stretches into the distance. Back on the precipice, Lucas and Isabel stand silhouetted against the star-dusted night sky, gazing out at the world below. A surge of raw power erupts, as Lucas unleashes a torrent of crackling blue lightning. The air itself seems to tear apart, as the electrical energy intensifies, arcing with destructive force. With a deafening roar, a massive explosion of blue electrical energy erupts, engulfing unseen foes in its devastating radius. From a distance, Isabel watches the display of power, a gasp escaping her lips as the sheer scale of the magic washes over her. His eyes glowing with an intense blue light, Lucas maintains his focus, his expression unwavering amidst the chaos. The air settles, leaving behind a faint, misty haze, with lingering blue particles drifting through the quiet aftermath. Deep within a dense forest, Lord Perun observes the challenging terrain, concluding that they must find an alternate route, while Isabel insists on seeking out powerful masters for assistance. As they continue their journey through the glowing forest, Isabel finally understands why she was brought to this place, having trained here for 2 months to learn a legendary skill. Her companion, Lord Perun, then poses a question, asking if she truly knows the reason for their arduous trek. Isabel, looking back at him, questions if he would have brought her all this way just for that. Perun's expression remains serious as he reveals their true destination, Schweitzer's dungeon, a name that immediately sparks Isabel's shock. Her eyes widen in disbelief, uttering the name of the legendary dungeon created by the great mage Schweitzer. The landscape shifts, revealing a vast, desolate crater, rumored to grant the power to rule the world to anyone who finds it. Isabel's voice echoes with doubt, questioning if such a place isn't merely a legend, its existence unconfirmed. Perun, understanding Schweitzer's nature, assures her that the dungeon is far from a simple place, leaving Isabel to wonder what he truly knows. He then elaborates on the dungeon's unique geography, describing a towering mountain with a beautiful lake at its peak, and a small island nestled within that lake. In a fleeting vision, Lucas Troman sits on the ground as Lord Perun stands over him, declaring, "I will be waiting for you over there." Back in the present, as they traverse a desolate landscape, Perun explains that the existence humans praise and applaud as God is merely a dungeon. This particular dungeon, a place where a 6-star dungeon once existed, is now a volcanic zone, its true nature still shrouded in mystery. He muses that it's a location Lucas Troman would have loved, and all they need to do is find an island within it. Perun continues, stating that calling it a legend isn't an exaggeration, because it is an extremely dangerous place. He adds that one would need to be at least a 6-star to challenge it, prompting Isabel to exclaim in surprise at the mention of 6-star. With a pointed finger, Perun clarifies that even with a month of training, it takes ages to reach the 6-star stage. Isabel, still processing the information, asks if he is the same, to which Perun responds that they should train in a better place. He continues, advising her to always search for a safe place to concentrate her mana, then asks if she is listening. Above them, the sky glows with the soft hues of dawn or dusk, as Isabel's mind conjures the image of a monstrous, glowing blue beast, its terrifying form shimmering with crackling energy. The weight of the challenge settles heavily upon her, a wave of anxiety washing over her as she considers the immense power required. Her distress is palpable, as Lord Perun, observing the distant horizon, remarks that she's slowly growing accustomed to the monsters of this region, but wonders what has captured her attention so intently. His gaze then sharpens, a hint of discovery in his voice as he declares, "Found it." The sun dips below the rugged cliffs, casting long shadows across the vast, open landscape. A gasp escapes Isabel as her eyes widen in astonishment. As before them stands a magnificent waterfall, its waters cascading down with immense power. The sight is truly breathtaking. The sheer volume of water creates a misty veil, behind which Lord Perun and Isabel discover a hidden cavern, its entrance shrouded by the natural wonder. Inside, a brilliant, golden orb of light pulsates with raw energy, drawing Perun's hand towards it. The cavern itself is vast, illuminated by the orb's glow, and Perun declares it the perfect training ground for the next 2 months. He calls out to Isabel, who looks down, her expression a mix of awe and apprehension, as the weight of his words settles upon her. She turns to him, her voice filled with disbelief, asking if his plan is truly possible, but he warns her that copying incorrectly could cost her life. With a serious demeanor, Perun emphasizes the critical need for careful observation, given the immense risks involved. As if summoned by an unseen force, ethereal particles begin to coalesce around an outstretched hand, shimmering with nascent power. Within the hidden cavern, Lord Perun sits in deep meditation, a soft, golden aura already beginning to emanate from his form as he channels the burgeoning magic. Watching the display, Isabel's eyes widen in shock, a bead of sweat tracing her temple as she wonders if this is truly the power she must learn to control. Outside the cavern, the majestic waterfall continues its endless descent, unaware of the immense magical energies stirring within. But then, a vibrant blue glow begins to emanate from the very heart of the cascading water, engulfing the entire fall in a powerful, shimmering magical surge. Back inside, Lord Perun's aura intensifies dramatically, his form now wreathed in crackling blue energy as the power reaches its peak. The vibrant blue energy expands rapidly, coalescing into a swirling, pulsating vortex of concentrated magical force. Lord Peruin continues his deep meditation, drawing immense mana from the entire Hispania mountain range, a vibrant blue energy swirling around him. The powerful aura radiates outwards, enveloping him in a shimmering, ethereal glow. Watching the display, Isabel wonders if he is gathering mana to the very limits of his mana room, deep within his abdomen. Suddenly, the blue energy shifts, transforming into a swirling vortex of vibrant purple. The hidden waterfall continues to cascade, unaware of the immense power being harnessed nearby. The purple energy intensifies, pulsating with raw, untamed magic. The sheer force of it is palpable, reflected in the wide, focused gaze of an observer. Lord Peruin, now fully enveloped in the deep purple aura, declares that with this, his preparations are complete. Isabel watches, her expression one of utter astonishment, as the powerful mage concludes his ritual. The cave pulses with vibrant purple energy, swirling around Isabel as she stands at its heart. Both she and the gray-haired observer watch intently, a soft gasp escaping him as he takes in the display. He muses aloud. I had my predictions, but who knew her talents surpassed my estimations? His gaze remains fixed, adding, and more than anything, her great passion for learning. A wide, satisfied grin spreads across his face. Isabel, startled by his sudden expression, asks, What are you doing? He simply replies, Pretty impressive, girl. She turns her head away, a hint of bashfulness in her posture. With the magical display concluded, he suggests, Let's eat now. A soft blush spreads across Isabel's cheeks, her eyes wide with a mixture of surprise and delight. As the gray-haired observer holds her close, Isabel murmurs, I'll join their guild and say hi. Would that make you happy? He responds with a gentle smile, extremely happy. With a soft, magical hum, Lucas Troman conjures a series of glowing, crystalline orbs, preparing a meal with his unique abilities, before declaring, All right, let's eat. David, however, shakes his head, insisting he's fine and suggesting they save the food for later, as he's not feeling hungry. The gray-haired observer, watching the exchange, remarks that David's brain must be winter spread, equating mana repletion with satiety. Isabel, looking down at the offered meal, is told to eat it even if she has to force it down, eliciting a soft, resigned "oh" from her. Later, within the confines of a natural cave, Lucas Troman and the gray-haired observer sit in quiet contemplation, the day's events settling around them. Isabel quietly munches on her meal. The soft sounds echoing in the cavern as Lord Peruin, the gray-haired observer, turns his gaze away. Until recently, she muses, I never imagined spending time like this with you. He confesses, I've always seen you as a cold and unfeeling villainess, someone who only cared about your own power, your spirit. Isabel listens, her expression unreadable. As he continues, but when I saw you like this, you seem like a different person. I don't know why, but... Her voice cuts him off. You have not yet found your destination, she states, then challenges him. Which one do you think is the real me? She glances away, a subtle shift in her demeanor. Before a faint smile touches her lips. Aren't both versions the same, really? Lord Peruin muses that humans never truly change. They only ever grow. He'd rather thank her for her change, he thinks, as Isabel observes him from a distance. She reminds him that previously, he wouldn't have brought her along to train, just the two of them. A blush spreads across her face as she thinks about spending an entire month in this narrow cave, just the two of them. He dismisses her concerns, reminding her not to worry about useless things, as he didn't tell her not to be interested in boys. Still, a deep sense of displeasure settles over her. She then notices a glowing magical circle forming behind him, asking what he's doing. Still feeling the sting of his words, Isabel mutters about the inconvenience of monsters appearing while they're still in the area, before abruptly declaring her departure and stepping away from the cave entrance, only to lose her footing and tumble into a hidden pit. As relief washes over her that she's no longer near him, a deeper, more primal frustration takes hold, making her wish she could punch him for all the trouble. Time passes in the serene quiet of the underground cavern, where a gentle waterfall cascades into a shimmering pool, its soft sounds accompanying Isabel's unconscious slumber, wrapped in a protective cloak. Her hands are bound, a silent testament to her vulnerable state, as she continues to rest, unaware of her surroundings. Finally, a voice breaks through the silence, asking if she's awake, and Isabel slowly stirs, her eyes fluttering open. Across from her, Lord Peruin sits in a meditative pose, his presence calm and unwavering. As she questions how long she's been asleep, to which he calmly replies, About 5 hours, maybe? Still annoyed by her predicament, Isabel sighs, wishing for a break, but knows today will be filled with real training. A calm voice cuts through her thoughts, announcing the beginning of Casageon's training method, which Lord Peruin simply defines as battling. He reiterates the method's extreme danger, cautioning them not to imitate him, but merely to watch as he stands opposite Lucas. With a surge of power, vibrant particles begin to coalesce around him, his form enveloped in a brilliant, swirling aura of blue and purple energy, which rapidly intensifies into a complex, glowing orb of raw magical force, pulsating with immense power. As the training begins, two distinct, swirling masses of energy, one fiery orange and the other watery blue, coalesce into a balanced, dynamic symbol. He attempts to separate the mana within his body into distinct fire and water attributes, a process Isabel observes intently. Within him, the conflicting mana begins to fight, threatening to overwhelm his control. The fire attribute manifests as a raging, demonic entity, while simultaneously, the water attribute takes the form of an ethereal, aquatic warrior. And the two internal forces clash violently, the water entity striking the fire. The intense internal struggle causes visible strain, blue energy lines flickering around his eye. The water entity surges, its power overwhelming the fiery manifestation, violently suppressing and driving it back. Deep within, a fiery, dragon-like entity roars, its form flickering with intense heat. The voice of Lord Peruin echoes, guiding the process. Match the balance so that the two attributes don't clash and can coexist, he instructs, as an ethereal water warrior rises to meet the fiery beast. A golden scale appears, symbolizing the delicate equilibrium, while Isabel watches, her eyes wide with realization. So this is... Lord Peruin sits in deep meditation, surrounded by swirling cosmic energy, his thoughts focused on the internal conflict. So this is... battling, he concludes, the cosmic energy around him pulsing with the struggle. Isabel observes the volatile display, the raw power of the mana swirling around Lord Peruin, watching battling. Her brow furrows, a bead of sweat tracing a path down her temple as the intensity of the training weighs on her. A soft tsk escapes her lips, a silent acknowledgement of the sheer difficulty and danger of the Casagen's method. Isabel kneels, engulfed in a vibrant, swirling aura of purple and pink energy, a soft groan escaping her lips as the training begins to take hold. Within the maelstrom, the clashing fire and water mana coalesce into a dynamic yin-yang symbol, swirling with increasing intensity. The internal conflict intensifies, the energies pushing against each other with growing force. As the balance wavers, the swirling mana pulses violently. Her face contorts in pure agony, a dark, viscous fluid escaping her lips as the overwhelming power takes its toll. Doubling over, she coughs violently, the sheer intensity of the Casagen's method forcing her to question everything she's been told. A dark, crimson pool stains the ground, a stark testament to the immense internal pain she endures from even a slight imbalance. While Isabel writhes in torment, Lord Peruin remains perfectly still, meditating as if completely detached from the chaos he has unleashed within her. Around them, the raw, untamed mana continues to swirl, a maelstrom of red, blue, and purple, reflecting the dangerous internal conflict. He remains in a deep meditative state, his long silver hair flowing around him as cosmic energies swirl and sparkle, reflecting the profound tranquility of his inner world. A powerful waterfall plunges into a pristine pool, its roar echoing through the tranquil landscape. From the depths of the water, a figure slowly rises, her long, vibrant red hair trailing behind her. She emerges, her blue eyes reflecting a profound weariness, a silent testament to an unimaginable journey. Later, she sits within a small, rocky alcove, her gaze distant, lost in thought. With deliberate movements, she begins to arrange small, flat stones on the cave floor, her fingers tracing the smooth surfaces as if counting the grains of sand in an hourglass. A fierce resolve hardens her expression as she looks up, declaring that she has never praised or applauded the existence others call God, acknowledging that 4,000 years have already passed. She hasn't moved an inch during the entire time, an observer notes, as Lucas Troman sits motionless by the water, having remained in that state for a full week. Then, as a powerful waterfall cascades nearby, the voice questions her, asking if she plans to stop practicing that terrifying method. Still, she remains unresponsive, her gaze fixed downwards. A subtle shift begins, her feet barely visible beneath her, as her amber eye opens wide, reflecting an inner turmoil. Suddenly, a torrent of vibrant blue mana erupts around her, swirling with intense energy. The surging magical energy engulfs her, transforming her red hair to a striking white silver, her eyes now glowing with an ethereal blue light. Tears stream down her face, a testament to the overwhelming power, as she achieves the materialization of mana itself. 4,000 years is too long to become a great mage, a voice from her past echoes, reminding her that such a level is impossible with normal growth speed, yet the observer marvels, having never seen such incredible growth speed. Now fully transformed, Lucas Troman stands enveloped in a brilliant blue aura, her power radiating outwards. Still pushing the limits of her newly transformed body, she strains, her glowing blue eyes fixed on an unseen goal, demanding more from herself. A massive, shimmering blue aura erupts around her, its sheer force causing the very air to crackle, as David and Isabel watch from below, visibly struggling against the overwhelming pressure. Isabel clutches her chest, her face contorted in pain, the raw mana assaulting her senses. The sky itself responds to the surge of power, unleashing a torrential downpour that lashes against the landscape. Even a nearby waterfall churns violently, its waters roiling and crashing with unnatural force. David struggles to catch his breath, a ragged cough escaping him, as Isabel collapses to her knees, overwhelmed by the suffocating mana. The source of this chaos, Lucas Troman, remains enveloped in a blinding blue light, her form a beacon of raw, untamed power. Isabel's eye widens in sheer terror, a silent scream caught in her throat as the mana intensifies. Finally, the immense exertion takes its toll, and Lucas Troman collapses, her body racked with pain, while Isabel, still reeling from the assault, struggles to recover. Even after the intense mana training, Isabel finds herself reflecting, her own growth speed proving difficult to believe. As blue mana swirls around her hand, she considers Kashtan's extreme training method, a battle against oneself. It was a truly extreme approach, making her wonder if their ancestors truly endured such a crazy method. Yet, the results were undeniable, explaining why current mages struggled to reach the heights of their predecessors. Suddenly, a strange sensation prickles at her, causing her to look around and wonder if something is amiss. Her eyes widen in surprise, as the feeling intensifies. With a series of sharp cracks, the magical barrier surrounding the area begins to fracture. Isabel's concern turns to alarm, realizing the barrier is breaking and questioning if an intruder has arrived. Finally, with a resounding crash, the barrier shatters completely, dissolving into brilliant light. As the magical barrier shatters, a surge of raw, fiery energy erupts, filling the space with glowing red particles, a powerful, wah sound echoing through the air. From the heart of the inferno, a colossal, bird-like entity begins to manifest, its form woven from pure flame, towering over Isabel and the gray-haired observer. Its eye, a vibrant orb of red and gold, burns with an ancient, knowing intensity, observing its surroundings. Isabel, her face etched with disbelief, can only stammer out a question, wondering what impossible creature stands before them. The full majesty of the fiery beast is revealed, its immense wings spread wide, as both Isabel and the observer gaze up at it, overwhelmed by its presence. The observer, his expression calm despite the spectacle, identifies the creature with a single word, a phoenix. Isabel's eyes widen further in shock, the name confirming her deepest fears and disbelief, as she questions the very existence of such a legendary, divine beast. The observer then clarifies that many creatures from myths and legends were, in fact, real beings that existed in the ancient world, some harmful, others like dragons and qilin, mentioned in Asian myths, simply powerful entities. As he finishes his explanation, a soft golden aura emanates from his form, his gaze still fixed on the magnificent creature above. He continues, explaining that the very existence humans praise and applaud as God is nothing more than a mythical beast. The observer stands calmly before the magnificent phoenix, its fiery plumage radiating intense heat and light. With an almost tender gesture, he reaches out, his bare hand making contact with the divine beast's head. Isabel watches, her eyes wide with disbelief, uttering a stunned, "Unbelievable." He touched the divine beast with his bare hands. Turning to her, the observer explains, "It's because it shows no hostility to me." He clarifies that the phoenix isn't weak, but injured, revealing a deep wound on its chest. It has a deep wound left by Argo's claws. Looking back at the majestic creature, he marvels, "It's a miracle it's still alive." Isabel's expression remains one of profound shock, her mind reeling from the implications of a wounded divine beast. As she gazes at the distant, fiery form, she whispers, "They're just like the legends, a divine beast that can't be controlled by humans." Her resolve hardens, and a fierce, fiery glow ignites within her eye, reflecting the untamed power she speaks of. In the dark, storm-swept mountains, a faint, ominous purple energy pulses, prompting a chilling realization. Something here possesses the power to inflict such a wound on a divine beast. A gasp escapes the observer, as he wonders just what is lurking within these peaks. A swirling vortex of dark purple energy begins to coalesce, shimmering with an otherworldly light, expanding rapidly as its power intensifies. Elsewhere, Isabel ponders the nature of mythical beings, wondering if a phoenix truly regains its healing powers simply by recovering its energy. Back in the swirling void, a colossal, scaly claw tears through the ethereal mist with a deep, resonant crrr sound. As a magnificent, fiery, bird-like creature bursts forth in a blinding explosion of golden flames. Its form solidifies, radiating immense heat and power. Lucas Troman stands before the newly manifested entity, which speaks with an ancient voice, acknowledging the rarity of someone seeing through its illusions, and advising him to choose his opponents wisely. The creature's golden eye, filled with ancient wisdom, gazes intently. From a distance, the gray-haired observer watches the profound interaction with a thoughtful expression. Amidst a crackling storm, the colossal fiery bird-like creature continues its ethereal manifestation. As a surge of water or ice magic erupts nearby, creating a dynamic clash of elemental forces. Soon, two of the magnificent, burning forms take flight, soaring through the turbulent skies. Meanwhile, deep within a cavern, the gray-haired observer and Isabel stand together, their attention drawn to something unseen in the darkness ahead. A fiery feather, shimmering with residual magic, floats before them, prompting the observer to sigh, lamenting that the creature offered no assistance. He then explains the feather's immense value, noting that a phoenix's feather can heal injuries, produce magic items, and fetch a very high price. As the feather continues to glow, he muses that the creature seems to be more of an observer itself. Turning his gaze to Isabel, he complains about her lack of assistance, despite having brought her along for days and weeks. Isabel, taken aback by his direct criticism, questions if he is speaking about her. Isabel, still frustrated, asks, "Can't you talk nicely with humans as well?" Internally, she finds the situation quite worrying. Yet for some reason, in her eyes, he appears as an elderly sage, a man whose depth is like that of a flawless great mage. She considers herself an outstanding person, even though he acts like a disrespectful man. His quiet insight, she muses, bears the weight of pharaohs. A profound wisdom that seems to echo through time. His vast historical knowledge, his speech containing the weight of maturity and experience, truly makes him seem like an elderly sage, a flawless great mage. He's an elderly sage, she muses, the depth he shows is like a flawless great mage. A great mage indeed. She thinks, a flicker of frustration crossing her features. Again, she finds herself questioning. There are moments when she wonders if the great mage Lucas Troman isn't a hypocrite. She considers, perhaps holding deep feelings of arrogance and disrespect. The more she thinks about it, the angrier she gets. The thought of him is absurd. Her frustration manifests as a faint, internal glow. Yet, despite her irritation, the observer's profound presence, surrounded by a shimmering blue aura and an ethereal figure, remains undeniable. A powerful blue light emanates from the observer, his form beginning to glow with an intense, ethereal energy. The radiant aura surrounds him, as Isabel watches, a small figure against the overwhelming display of power. Her expression shifts from awe to a hint of resignation, as if acknowledging an inevitable truth. A sigh escapes her lips, as she quietly concedes that he truly succeeded in just 1 month, congratulating him on becoming a 6-star. The observer stands tall, his muscular physique now fully revealed, bathed in the brilliant, pulsing blue light of his awakened power. The energy continues to surge around him, a testament to his formidable new status. He stares ahead, a faint red glow around his eyes, contemplating the very concept of divinity, knowing he has never once praised or applauded the existence others call God. Nearby, David observes him, noting that a scattered piece of the former dragon's magic still lingers in the air, a sensation Lucas can distinctly feel. A quiet realization dawns on him as he muses. He can now gather mana simply by breathing. His eye glows with a faint, ethereal light. And he points with conviction, declaring that he can feel it. The dragon's magic is calling out to him. His hand clenches, a silent testament to his resolve. He still finds himself unable to praise or applaud the existence that humans so readily call God, even as Isabel playfully asks the gray-haired man if he wants some beef jerky. With a slight grimace, the gray-haired man declines, stating his need for a proper hunt and some oily food to fill his stomach. Looking up at the sky, Isabel asks if he will be all right, to which he scoffs, questioning who she thinks she's talking to. Later, the sound of a rushing waterfall echoes through a serene, rocky landscape. But the pair suddenly stops, startled by something they've discovered. Before them lies a gruesome scene. The mangled bodies of several large monsters are strewn across the ground. One of the creatures, a phoenix-like beast, is particularly large, and Isabel muses on its immense size. Surveying the carnage, the gray-haired man realizes why they hadn't sensed any monsters. Something must have been protecting them. Isabel, her expression thoughtful, agrees, concluding that it seems something was indeed trying to protect them. He finds himself confronted by an ethereal, purple-haired woman, her form glowing with an otherworldly light, as she questions his relationship with his disciple. He calmly corrects her, stating that he is not training the young man, but rather considers him his disciple, before a silent promise echoes in his mind. If destiny allows, they will meet again. Later, walking through a desolate, rocky landscape with Isabel, he observes that there's no longer a need to hunt, suggesting they head to Lord Peruin's dungeon instead. A chilling cry echoes across the barren expanse as they come upon a gruesome scene. A massive, phoenix-like monster lies brutally slain, surrounded by countless smaller, lifeless creatures. Both he and Isabel stare at the carnage, their expressions a mixture of shock and grim understanding. The desolate landscape stretches before them, and a human voice, surprisingly close, reaches their ears. Isabel, her gaze still fixed on the scene, admits to her growing hunger. A sudden realization dawns. With a surge of power, the gray-haired man stands in a newly formed crater, his aura swirling around him as he prepares for whatever comes next. Suddenly, a shimmering, blue magical blade arcs through the air, forcing Isabel to react with a startled cry. Her eyes wide with alarm, she screams Lucas Troman's alias, Fry. As the vast, empty landscape stretches before her, a helpless thought crosses her mind. What am I supposed to do by myself? She stands isolated on the barren ground, a shimmering magical barrier forming around her, her staff held defensively. Meanwhile, in a darker, confined space, Lucas Troman holds a terrified man, whose desperate scream echoes through the air. The man's face contorts in pure terror as he pleads for his life, his words cut short by a pained gasp. Isabel is now bound to a tree, helpless, as the terrified man stands nearby, surrounded by several menacing figures. Without warning, multiple daggers pierce the man's back, silencing his pleas in a spray of blood. His lifeless body slumps forward, a final, desperate question hanging in the air. What have I ever done to you? As one of the attackers looks on coldly. Two men engage in a spirited contest, one declaring, I'm gonna get you, 'cause Kim hung, while another, a man with a top knot, eagerly asserts, it's my turn. Now part of a larger group, the man with the top knot impatiently shouts, stop messing around. Let's go, you dummits. He reiterates, it's my turn. A low grumble escapes him as his thoughts drift to a single, nagging question. Just when will that woman pass by here? His impatience grows, lamenting, it's already been over a month. Sitting by a small fire, he curses under his breath, a low grumble escaping him. Elsewhere, a hand grips a spear, poised for a deadly throw. The spear wielder addresses a group of onlookers, instructing them to watch carefully, you fuckers. He promises, I'll properly stab him in the forehead. A blonde-haired man cries out in pain, his voice a desperate gasp. The spear wielder unleashes the weapon with powerful force, the throw marked by a triumphant declaration of a 10-point hit. A guttural scream tears through the air as Lucas Troman, bound and helpless, endures unimaginable pain. His head snaps back from a devastating impact, blood spraying into the desolate landscape. A spear, still quivering from the force, remains lodged in his chest, a grim testament to the executioner's precision. Then, with a sickening tear, the weapon is violently ripped free. Two men observe the aftermath, one with a bald head and golden earrings, the other with a dark topknot. As the bald man remarks, what was that just now? The man with the topknot chuckles. GUH, they didn't want to let me go, The man with the topknot stretches, clearly annoyed. Ag, how annoying. The bald man turns, instructing his companion. Let's pack up and get going. The chief is all ready. Before he can finish, a new figure with long, silver hair steps forward, confronting him directly. Who are you? The bald man glares back, his hand instinctively reaching for a weapon. Bastard. A grim-faced executioner, his topknot swaying, grips a knife. While the long-haired man who confronted them observes the scene with a detached gaze, wondering if the victim was truly meant to die. His eyes narrow, a flicker of something unreadable passing through them. As the two executioners, one with a topknot and the other bald, stand over their bound captive, having used living humans as targets for their cruel games. But then, the supposed corpse, Lucas Troman, stirs, his voice raspy as he accuses them of enjoying their sadistic sport. The two executioners recoil in shock, unable to comprehend how the dead man could speak. Before they can react, the gray-haired man's eyes blaze with an intense blue light, crackling energy erupting around him. And a sudden, unseen force slams into the bald executioner, twisting his face in a scream of agony. Both men are violently thrown backward, leaving the gray-haired man standing alone, his power radiating. The powerful magical assault slams into the executioners, sending a jolt of pain through one, who cries out as the force impacts him. Both men recoil, their faces contorted in shock and agony, overwhelmed by the sudden, devastating power. Purple energy crackles around the topknot executioner, his body visibly straining under the magical pressure. The gray-haired man stands firm, his arm extended, unleashing a swirling vortex of vibrant purple magic that engulfs his targets. The sheer force of the attack shatters the very ground, leaving a crater where the executioners once stood as the magical energy begins to dissipate. This devastating technique, known as the light scythe, leaves nothing but destruction in its wake. As the last vestiges of purple energy vanish, the air settles, leaving only dust and silence. The bald executioner, barely conscious, can only register the impossible power he just witnessed. 5-star magic. Through the settling dust, Lucas Troman remains standing, unharmed and calm, protected by the gray-haired man's formidable power. With the executioners incapacitated, the gray-haired man calmly looks down, his voice carrying an undeniable authority as he declares, friends, it's time for a lesson. Deep within a dense forest, Isabel gazes intently at something unseen, a soft gasp escaping her lips, as the gray-haired observer stands silently behind her. Moments later, the gray-haired observer stands amidst a gruesome scene, atop a mound of defeated figures. His gaze distant and contemplative, he surveys the aftermath. Isabel approaches him, her voice laced with disbelief, asking if he had truly killed them all, to which he calmly replies that he let one escape. Standing side by side, the two survey the aftermath of the battle. Meanwhile, a severely injured executioner, pinned against a rock, reveals that his comrades had been calling their leader the vice-captain, implying the existence of a higher-ranking captain somewhere. As the dust settled from the recent conflict, Isabel couldn't help but question the gray-haired observer's methods, wondering aloud about the unsettling sight before them. His mind, however, seemed to drift to a darker memory, a monstrous entity's voice echoing with a chilling question. Did he truly enjoy watching humanity tear itself apart, or was it merely entertainment? The observer's silent reply was a defiant challenge to that very notion. A flicker of disdain crossed his features as he considered the idea. finding the thought of anyone deriving joy from such misery utterly repulsive. Isabel, still grappling with the recent bloodshed, couldn't reconcile his detached demeanor with the lives that had just been lost, insisting that she couldn't simply pretend nothing had happened. Meanwhile, a different scene unfolded, as a man with light brown hair, his face etched with despair, confessed that he had already spilled too much blood, his words heavy with regret, while Isabel looked on, her expression somber. Tears streamed down his face as he pleaded desperately, his voice cracking with raw emotion, even as a cold, unseen voice reminded him of their lack of obligation. Isabel, witnessing the gray-haired observer's unwavering resolve, could only utter a single, conflicted word, sensing the depth of his conviction. The unnamed man, still weeping, reached out a trembling hand, his final wish to apologize to his father before his inevitable end. Yet, the gray-haired observer's eyes remained cold and distant, unmoved by the man's desperate plea, his gaze fixed on something far beyond the immediate suffering. High above a rugged, rocky landscape, a profound truth echoes, revealing that the third floor of this perilous domain was conquered by a god-king. Meanwhile, deep within a forest, a small group of travelers gathers around a crackling campfire, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames as an old man begins to speak. Among them, Captain Karlst listens intently, his sharp gaze fixed on the storyteller. The old man gestures emphatically, accusing someone of having drunk an entire barrel. He insists to Captain Karlst that his words are true, having witnessed the event himself. As he speaks, a vision of a white-haired creature, its mane scattering in the wind, flashes through the mind's eye, a memory of a powerful, untamed force. Then, the image shifts to an ethereal spirit, its slender form emanating a foul stench of rot, a haunting presence from a forgotten past. The old man continues, emphasizing that the individual in question was no ordinary person, their mastery of mountain combat leaving them utterly defenseless. Captain Karl stands with another man, his expression unreadable as the story unfolds, the weight of the old man's words settling around them. He sent the heads of our members flying in an instant, and I alone barely escaped with my life. Captain Karlst listens intently, his expression grim. The blonde-haired man continues, identifying the assailant as a magician. Karlst confirms this with a curt affirmative. Looking at the circumstances, the magician notes that the enemy seemed to be capable of double casting. Karlst's gaze sharpens as he considers the implications, acknowledging that a settle made is now in play, again confirming with an affirmative. His boots hit the ground with purpose. As he leads his group forward, giving the order to increase the lookout. They must find the ghost. His resolve is clear. After getting into position, they will kill him. The wind whips around him, carrying the weight of his command. His gaze sharp, he questions the mercenary about the mage, wondering if he truly believes the powerful magician would resort to martial arts. The mercenary, clearly intimidated, offers a dismissive humph. Karlst presses him further, accusing him and his companions of playing at the borders, to which the mercenary quickly bows, stammering an apology and admitting they were merely bored. The mercenary, a low-ranked individual, struggles to comprehend the situation, his mind racing as Karlst demands to know who he was trying to deceive. Karlst reflects on the escort, the one who brought the mage to their borders, noting that the man hadn't even realized the true gravity of the situation. His eyes narrow, a burning question forming in his mind. Just who is this mage? The open sky stretches above, a silent witness to the unfolding events. As the scene shifts to a desolate forest floor, littered with the broken remnants of a cart, the air thick with the lingering scent of dust and destruction. Amidst the scattered debris of a recent battle, a lone figure lies defeated on the ground. As a dark-haired soldier looks down, a heavy sigh escaping him. Elsewhere, Captain Karlst stands resolute, his voice echoing with a question of long-held determination, wondering aloud how long he has searched for the one before him. He addresses the light, blue-haired woman before him, identifying her as the eldest daughter of the prominent Aquarium Night House, her presence commanding attention even among the soldiers flanking her. As she takes a step forward, her name is revealed, Sonia. Suddenly, Sonia finds herself surrounded, a ring of armed soldiers closing in on her from all sides, their weapons drawn and ready. Without hesitation, she unleashes a powerful, two-handed swing with her massive weapon, the force of her attack blurring through the air. The impact is immediate and brutal, as Sonia carves a path through her assailants, cutting down multiple soldiers with terrifying efficiency. The dark-haired soldier from before watches the carnage unfold, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief, a silent testament to Sonia's overwhelming strength. Sonia continues her relentless assault, her blade flashing as it connects with an opponent, sending fragments of armor and debris scattering into the air. Her expression remains fierce, eyes narrowed with unwavering resolve. The sharp edge of her sword gleams, ready for the next strike. She grips the hilt firmly, preparing for another devastating blow. Watching her brutal efficiency, Captain Karlst lets out a furious roar, "D!" As if in response, Sonia's sword begins to shimmer, enveloped in a soft, ethereal glow. The light intensifies around the blade, charging it with potent energy. With a powerful stomp, she drives her foot into the ground, unleashing the stored power. Two maids whisper to each other, one of them uttering Sonia's name with a worried tone. Meanwhile, a grizzled, bearded man in heavy armor looks on with a grim expression, his face etched with despair. And a man with long, flowing gray hair gazes downward, a heavy silence hanging in the air as he considers the situation. Sonia, holding her sword, hears the whispers about her beauty, but her mind is elsewhere, focused on the grim reality of their circumstances. It had been over a month since the incident in the mountains, a battle that had annihilated their escorting knights. The memory of their annihilation still fresh, Sonia's expression hardens with resolve. Now, only the maids and Sir Luther remained, the injured knight sitting solemnly with his sword planted in the ground beside him. But Sir Luther had long since retired from active duty, leaving Sonia as the sole person capable of fighting. In the desolate expanse, a small group of figures stands, their numbers far exceeding the lone knight, and each one appears highly skilled. They remain poised. As Sonia, facing them down, curses the dire turn of events, realizing this is truly the worst-case scenario. A thought crosses Captain Karl's mind, a flicker of curiosity about the situation. He then challenges Sonia, demanding to know the whereabouts of her escort magician. His eyes narrow, dismissing the very idea as utter nonsense. Sonia, however, counters with a question of her own, asking if he truly believes a knight house with a long history would rely on a mage for escort. Karl scoffs, his thoughts confirming his prejudice that magicians these days are nothing but weaklings, and certainly not like the powerful magician he once knew. As he utters the word host, a deeper curiosity takes hold of him, making him wonder what kind of person Sonia truly is. From her vantage point, Sonia assures the unseen, "Don't worry, we'll be with you right away," before her expression hardens, demanding, "What do you mean?" A smirk plays on Karl's lips as he retorts, "What? You think that's all? Is it really so easy to shake a man that's been through hell?" Sonia's face tightens with barely contained fury, as Karl continues his taunts, looking up at her with a sneer. "To think that guys like us would be able to play with a noble woman. What a rare occasion, right?" Sonia's gaze remains fixed on him, her eyes flaring with an intense, crimson glow as she spits out a single, venomous word. "Bullshit." Addressing the entire group below, Sonia declares with fierce resolve, "I'd rather bite my tongue off, instead of bearing your plotting." Karl's expression hardens, his eyes narrowing slightly at her outburst, before he delivers a final, chilling threat. "Oh well, it doesn't change much. If you die, we'll help ourselves to those women behind you." Two women, cloaked in purple, kneel on the barren ground, their faces etched with fear and resignation. Meanwhile, Captain Karlst addresses his men, his voice dripping with impatience, reminding them they've been pursuing their target for over a month, and his soldiers are growing restless. His gaze hardens, a cruel smile playing on his lips as he promises they won't be able to kill them nicely. Sonia, her eyes now burning with a fierce red glow, glares back, her inner fury boiling at the thought of these sons of bitches. Karl's voice cuts through the air, challenging her, asking if she truly intends to defy him. But Sonia stands firm, her resolve unwavering as she declares they will not falter again. Standing beside another woman in purple, Sonia's expression is one of fierce determination, ready to face whatever comes next. Sir Luther kneels before her, his head bowed in loyalty, proclaiming it would be an honor to die for Lady Sonia. From the sidelines, a red-bearded man watches the scene unfold, his expression unreadable. Sonia lets out a soft, regretful sound, her gaze cast downward as a nun's comforting hand rests upon her shoulder. With her eyes briefly flaring a furious red, she offers a quiet apology. Standing before the kneeling nuns, Sonia reiterates her apology, acknowledging that her emotions had gotten the better of her. The nuns, their faces etched with understanding, assure her that they comprehend, expressing gratitude for her past kindness that allowed them to grow up healthy. A quiet sound of contemplation escapes Sonia, her hand resting over her heart as she processes their words. As Captain Karlst watches from a distance, the nuns continue their plea, imploring Sonia for a grave favor. They beg her to end their lives with her own hands. Explaining their reasoning, they declare it would be dishonorable to reunite with their god after having become profane and filthy things. With a heavy heart, Sonia finally concedes, her hand gripping the hilt of her sword as the nuns express their readiness to reunite in heaven, holding their heads high. A group of onlookers, including Captain Karlst and a bald executioner, watch in disbelief, calling out to wait, wondering what is happening before them. Meanwhile, for the sake of the two young women, and for the honor of the nuns, Sonia moves with grim resolve. Her sword flashes, a swift strike aimed at the ethereal spirit, who lets out a surprised squawk, promising to gratefully send her on her new journey. Captain Karlst lunges forward, desperately trying to intervene, shouting for her to stop. But Sonia's blade, glowing with an inner light, moves with impossible speed. As the ethereal spirit reaches out, a soft sound accompanies her attempt to block. But Sonia's sword connects with a resounding impact, a powerful quang echoing through the air. The onlookers, including Captain Karlst and the bald executioner, are left utterly stunned by the sudden, brutal efficiency of her strike. Sonia's face is a mask of strained resolve, her teeth gritted, the weight of her decision heavy upon her. A single tear escapes Sonia's eye, as the weight of her actions settles upon her, a sharp, almost metallic sound echoing the finality of the moment. Nearby, two robed figures recoil in shock, their faces etched with disbelief. Sonia herself cries out in raw frustration, her entire being radiating anguish. Her hand pulls back sharply from the ethereal spirit's fading grasp, the contact broken with a soft, lingering hum. The robed onlookers remain stunned, a silent question hanging in the air. Just when? Meanwhile, the bald executioner and his top-knotted companion, along with another guard, exchange worried glances, muttering about the unexpected skill of the Skullgate bandits. Sonia looks down, her face contorted in a grimace, a choked "goddammit" escaping her lips. Her fists clench tightly at her sides, as she grapples with the bitter realization. In the end, I suffered the worst humiliation for a night. As the robed figures murmur in surprise, she turns to them, her voice cutting through the tension. With unwavering resolve, she declares, I, Sonia Aquagard, the eldest daughter of the Aquagard house, order you. Her command rings out, demanding they bite your own tongues, and the robed figures gasp, recognizing the authority in Lady Sonia's voice. Elsewhere, a sharp, golden eye narrows, observing something unseen. Captain Karlst, his teal hair flowing, steps forward, a grim expression on his face as he states, You've finally revealed yourself. He stands ready, a sword in hand, facing a cloaked figure with glowing red eyes, while the gray-haired observer watches intently. The cloaked figure, now identified, is simply called Ghost. A vast assembly of figures gathers within a sun-dappled forest clearing, their numbers stretching into the distance. Among them, Lucas Troman stands prominently, his golden hair catching the light, with Isabel, the gray-haired observer, and the ethereal spirit close by. Sonia, the ethereal spirit, and David are also present, their faces reflecting the gravity of the situation. Isabel and David stand side by side, their gazes fixed on something beyond the immediate group. Captain Karlst, his teal hair flowing and eyes glowing with an inner light, addresses the assembled, his voice carrying a hint of challenge as he speaks of rumors that he cares little for his own kind. As he finishes, Lucas and the gray-haired observer stand ready, awaiting the next words, a direct question hanging in the air. Are you the leader? Sonia watches intently, her hand resting on the hilt of her sword, as Captain Karlst continues to speak. He looks down at Lucas Troman, asking, Did you come from over there? Lucas Troman, pointing towards a distant, forested area, confirms, That's where our base camp is located. Captain Karlst then asks, Did you do this to my men? Lucas Troman replies calmly, I took good care of them. Captain Karlst's gaze sharpens, his jaw set with fierce resolve. He grits his teeth, a silent testament to the effort he's exerting. From a distance, a voice shouts for the white-haired man to be killed, but another, belonging to the gray-haired observer, quickly dismisses the idea, stating that he's not the kind of mage they can handle. Karlst, proving the point, delivers a powerful kick to an enemy mage, the impact sending him reeling. The gray-haired observer reiterates, a battle mage? He is different. He's not the kind of mage we can handle. His eyes glow with an intense yellow light as he watches the unfolding battle. Karlst unleashes a torrent of swirling wind, a powerful magical vortex that engulfs his opponent. He follows through with a devastating mid-air kick, driving the enemy further into the maelstrom. The defeated foe groans in pain, while another nearby enemy watches, stunned by the sheer power Karlst just displayed. A dark-skinned man's face contorts in sudden surprise, his golden eyes widening at an unseen event. Then, a powerful blue energy erupts, accompanied by a deafening crash. The force intensifies, swirling with destructive power. A swift, blue-tinged kick slices through the chaotic energy, culminating in a blinding white explosion that sends debris flying. As the dust settles, a red-haired woman and a light blue-haired man stand observing the aftermath. The latter, his sharp golden eyes narrowed, demanding to know their identities and purpose. The red-haired woman, however, offers a gentle, reassuring smile. She calmly states that they mean no harm, inviting him to rest easy. Sonia stands, her hands clasped, a moment of calm before the storm. Then, a powerful footfall echoes, kicking up dust as she begins her assault. She moves with incredible speed, a flurry of light blue energy blades erupting around her, slicing through the air. Even as she presses her assault, conjuring a glowing yellow construct, her opponent dismisses her, believing her to be just another magician. But this is no ordinary mage. Her blades are real, not mere illusions, and her mana seems limitless. Captain Karlst, caught in the relentless barrage, wonders if she will eventually tire, or if his men will bring her down as she continues her fierce attack. His face contorts in fury, eyes glowing with a fierce yellow light, as he vows that her head will soon be flying. But before he can act on his threat, a sharp impact sends him reeling back, a pained cry escaping his lips. The force of the blow leaves him glowing with residual energy, momentarily stunned. As Captain Karlst unleashes a flurry of glowing magical blades, she deftly parries each strike, a determined expression on her face, even as he taunts her, demanding to know how she can possibly keep up with his speed. His golden eye glows with fierce concentration, his resolve unwavering. The sheer volume of his attacks is staggering, a relentless storm of blades that seems impossible to counter. He continues to press his advantage, convinced that his mana reserves are limitless, while she, battered but unyielding, wonders how he can possibly maintain such a furious pace. His eyes blaze with raw power, a dark aura swirling around him. But then, a sudden, sharp impact rings out, a sound that shouldn't be possible amidst his onslaught. Before he can react, she closes the distance, delivering a devastating kick that sends him flying, his body twisting violently in the air. He spins helplessly, unable to regain his footing. A cry of shock and pain escapes his lips, the tables suddenly turned. Still reeling from the impact, Captain Carl struggles to clear his head, his body momentarily stunned. Dust and debris continue to erupt from the ground, a testament to the sheer force of the blow. As Karlst clutches his head in pain, David watches on, his expression a mix of shock and concern. Still on his knees, Karlst coughs violently, struggling to regain his composure. David, observing the captain's weakened state, wonders if the relentless assault has finally ceased. The realization dawns on him. Karlst has completely exhausted his mana. Despite his exhaustion, Karlst's eyes burn with fury as he snarls, ordering his remaining forces to attack. Driven by fear of their captain's wrath, David and the other soldiers charge forward, knowing that failure means their own demise. As the charge begins, David turns to Sonya, his voice urgent, asking if she has depleted her own mana and offering his aid. As the enemy forces closed in, Lucas Troman began to channel immense magical energy, his hands glowing with an ethereal light. He closed his eyes in deep concentration, intensifying the spell as swirling magical particles enveloped his hands. With a sudden, violent tremor, the ground itself began to crack and erupt, sending large chunks of earth flying into the air. The charging soldiers, including the top-knot and bald executioners, were caught completely off guard, their expressions shifting from aggression to utter surprise. Terror contorted their faces as the ground continued its violent upheaval beneath them. Even Captain Karlst, his eyes wide with disbelief, could only stare in shock, questioning the impossible tremor. Beneath one soldier's foot, the earth shattered completely, giving way to the destructive force. Plunging into the collapsing chasm, the soldier cried out, realizing the true scale of the earthquake. He continued to fall, his terrified scream echoing as the ground gave way completely. The earth continues to fracture violently, sending enemy soldiers screaming as they are thrown and crushed by the collapsing ground. Amidst the dust and debris, a soldier's face contorts in pure terror and agony. Others plummet into newly formed chasms, their desperate cries fading into the rumbling earth. The survivors, scattered and broken, can only beg for salvation that will not come. Watching the devastation unfold, Captain Karlst can only utter a single word in disbelief. He stares at the ravaged landscape, the sheer scale of the annihilation sinking in. On the newly scarred earth, Lucas Troman stands with Sonya and David, all three surveying the catastrophic aftermath of his power. The red-haired figure, adorned with a single wing, questions the immense power that has just manifested, a five-star magic beast born from the very earth, wondering if he must now confront such a formidable foe. He reveals that the earlier assaults were mere diversions, designed to gain precious time for a spell to be cast. Lucas reacts with disbelief, realizing the true purpose behind the preceding chaos. Someone was orchestrating a diversion. The red-haired figure expresses astonishment, having never witnessed anyone capable of simultaneously casting two powerful spells. A look of profound realization crosses his face, as the gray-haired observer reflects on this extraordinary feat, acknowledging that such a talent was unheard of until he encountered Lucas. The memory fades, leaving behind a stark, frozen landscape. Under a vast, clear sky, distant mountains rose, their peaks sharp against the horizon. An old, weathered wooden cart sat abandoned in a sun-drenched field. As a group of figures gathered, one woman stepping forward to address them. She offered her sincere gratitude for their help, introducing herself as Sonya Aquareed of the Lionheart Kingdom. Sonya's expression tightened, a hint of disbelief in her voice, as she questioned the lack of courtesy from the light-haired mage. She pointed out that he was not being courteous either, her words hanging in the air between them. Another woman, with vibrant red hair, stepped forward to apologize for his manners, explaining that he was still a bit inexperienced before introducing herself as Isabel Trisnan. Isabel then turned her gaze to the light-haired mage, a hint of exasperation in her eyes, asking if he thought his behavior was cute, and why he couldn't act as courteously as he had with the phoenix. Still pondering the identity of the man they encountered, Isabel dismisses the idea of him being a mere hermit, while the gray-haired observer sighs, finding the situation a waste. Turning to Sir Luther, Lucas asks if he knows the man, revealing that he is a child of the Blake House. Sir Luther confirms, explaining that the Blake House is one of the noble lineages that uphold the Cascaw Empire. Isabel, her eyes wide with surprise, exclaims the name of the current family head, Sir Isaka Blake. The gray-haired observer adds that Isaka Blake is not only one of the 5 7-star magicians, but also the head of the 6th Magic Tower, then wonders aloud how such a great person could appear so haggard. As the conversation shifts, Sir Luther then inquires about their destination. Lucas replies simply, to the city, and Sir Luther mentions having heard of a city of magicians near the area, bearing Lucas's name. The gray-haired observer confirms their shared destination, offering to guide Lucas and his companions, to which Lucas expresses his gratitude. A moment of realization dawns on Lucas as he lets out a soft, contemplative sound. Sir Luther thanks Lucas for his proposal, but explains that they must first recover the bodies of their fallen knights. He clarifies that it will take some time, urging Lucas's group to leave first. Lucas then asks if they will bury them there, to which Sir Luther replies that they have no choice, as they cannot transport the bodies to the city. Lucas offers to take them to the city for him, a gesture that elicits a surprised "excuse me" from Sir Luther. Suddenly, the ground trembles as multiple figures and debris begin to plummet from the sky, drawing the horrified gaze of the entire group. As the objects descend, Lucas Troman's eyes glow with a pale blue light, his hands rising instinctively as if to conjure a spell. One of the falling objects, a wooden cart, shatters into pieces mid-air, its fragments scattering with violent force as they continue their descent. Elsewhere, a blue-haired woman with lavender skin looks on in utter disbelief, a gasp of "my goodness" escaping her lips. As debris and figures continue to plummet from the sky, he calmly asks if they should proceed, the impacts echoing around them. Meanwhile, in a starkly different location, two imposing executioners stand over a bound, obscured figure, their presence ominous. The distant city gleams under the sun, unaware of the unfolding events. Back with the group, another object slams into the ground, shattering the earth near the cartwheel. Amidst the danger, Sonia turns to Lucas, her expression incredulous, demanding to know if he is truly only 20, having assumed him to be at least 30. He considers her words for a moment, muttering to himself about how she perceives him. Then, with a shrug, he dismisses her age-related concerns entirely. Another heavy impact shakes the ground, drawing their attention back to the ongoing barrage. As more objects continue to fall around them, Sir Luther, utterly bewildered by the conversation, asks what they are even discussing. He continues to analyze the situation, noting that the mercenaries seem to be hiding something in the mountains from the very beginning, though the reason remains unclear. Sonia then recalls that they had claimed to be waiting for over a month. The gray-haired observer adds that a month aligns perfectly with the time since they departed Luenbel. Meanwhile, Sir Luther struggles to process their casual conversation amidst the chaos, unable to view the situation in the same detached way, knowing the aquarium has as many enemies as it does allies. Sonia, however, maintains her point, insisting that those mercenaries were exceptionally skilled. She continues, her words painting a picture of shadowy figures with glowing red eyes, that whoever managed to dispatch such capable fighters must possess immense power. The thought conjures an image of Captain Karlst and another formidable warrior, reinforcing her belief that only people of great strength could have achieved such a feat. Lucas, however, remains unfazed, casually reminding her how easily Fry dealt with them. Sonia's expression shifts, a hint of awe and exasperation crossing her features at his nonchalant power. Still reeling from the casual display of power, Sonia questions how Lucas could have gained such formidable skills and abilities. She grips his arm, her expression a mix of frustration and disbelief, as he remains unfazed. The gray-haired observer, Lord Peruin, watches their exchange, a thought forming in his mind about the mercenaries they had just defeated, who were supposedly quite skilled. Lucas, however, offers a simple, almost dismissive explanation, declaring the answer to be obvious. Lord Peruin's eyes widen in surprise as Lucas reveals his secret. It was simply a matter of effort. Sonia looks on, utterly exasperated by his nonchalance, while Lord Peruin remains stunned. Lucas reiterates his point, emphasizing the effort required. The scene shifts to a bustling port, where a grand ship is docked, ready for departure. Crates and supplies are being loaded onto the deck, preparing for a journey. Lord Peruin holds Sonia's hand, a tender farewell passing between them. As she steps onto the ship, she glances back at him one last time. The sun begins to set over the bustling port, casting long shadows as the ship prepares to depart, carrying Sonia, Lucas, and their companions away from the shore. Lord Peruin and Isabel remain on the dock, watching the vessel. Turning to a nearby guard, Lord Peruin expresses his sincere gratitude, acknowledging the safety of their families. He hopes his assistance will continue to be of help. He then wishes the red-capped figure an enjoyable journey, a sentiment that elicits a sudden, sharp reaction from Sonia. Both Lord Peruin and Isabel look on in surprise, wondering what could have caused such an outburst. With a determined expression, Sonia vows to return the favor. As the group prepared to depart, Lord Peruin gently placed a hand on Isabel's head, emphasizing the need for them to protect each other and survive, to which she firmly agreed. Turning to Lucas, Peruin bowed slightly, requesting permission for their actions. He explained that simply sending them off without proper ceremony would cause the royal family to lose face, a matter of significant concern. Nearby, Sonia stood with a clenched fist, her expression resolute, as Isabel watched her with a hint of concern. Shifting the mood, Lucas then playfully suggested Isabel buy him dinner, to which she eagerly responded that she knew of a place with extremely delicious salads. Outside a bustling inn, Captain Karl stands with a bearded man, both observing the establishment. The bearded man hums thoughtfully, his expression suggesting a critical assessment of their surroundings. Inside, Patrons enjoy their drinks, as a voice from the crowd questions if this truly looks like a place fit for a king. Karlst, however, counters, explaining that kings and princes frequently visit this very inn for its renowned Alash. His eyes narrow slightly as he challenges the bearded man, demanding to know why he would call such a place dirty and run down. An innkeeper, serving drinks nearby, interjects that the pub isn't bad, while the bearded man mutters that he sees this as a sign to leave immediately. A faint smile plays on Karlst's lips, amused by his companion's persistent negativity. The bearded man, however, remains unimpressed, remarking that he's surprised no one else has turned up alive in such a place. A stern gaze falls upon the scene, an older man with a distinguished beard observing with quiet intensity. Nearby, a young man with light brown hair stands beside a red-haired woman, both looking on with concern as she speaks. The focus shifts to a small, unsettling doll, its stylized face bearing a knife, as a voice questions, "Are you Kazan?" Inside a bustling inn, the bearded man addresses a small crowd, his presence commanding attention, while the young man with light brown hair calls out to him, "Father." Later, a bandaged arm reaches out, clutching a scroll, revealing a recent injury. The red-haired woman stands over the young man, who is now seated at a table, his arm still bandaged, as she reassures him, "It'll be fine." His expression remains troubled, however, as he again murmurs, "Father." The bearded man then offers a complex piece of advice, acknowledging the young man's respect while asserting his paternal authority. "You're right, master. But as a man, I'm your dad, so listen to me, master." He clutches his head, tears streaming down his face as he laments the regret he feels for the entire time he spent with his father. Meanwhile, Isabel expresses her apologies for the master's son leaving, but Captain Karlst dismisses her concern, stating that it's all right and doesn't matter. He then observes the two executioners, wondering how they got into the master's son's room, noting their identical appearance. Karlst muses that the drag of their team must have some unexpected skills in healing magic, prompting Isabel to ask who he's talking about. He replies that he's just asking who the drag is, confirming that she is indeed the drag. Karlst continues his thought, muttering "anyways," with a dismissive gesture. Later, in a grand hall, Karlst observes Sir Luther and other knights, noting that they were on the verge of losing here, and it doesn't look like the house is doing well. He comments that there are so many people present, suggesting this must be a good sign, but Sir Luther responds that it's a pity, and they'll have to look for another place. Karlst then apologizes for bringing this up to Sir Luther, adding that even though the casualties here are perfectly delectable, a shopkeeper's booming voice cuts through the chatter, demanding everyone stop eating and leave immediately. His face contorted in a scowl, he reiterates that the establishment is closed for the day. Isabel and another customer look on in surprise, the latter questioning the sudden early closure, especially since he was in the middle of his shopping. The shopkeeper, however, is unyielding, shoving the protesting customer out with a dismissive offer to forego payment. With a definitive click, the door swings shut. A closed sign now hangs prominently, sealing off the establishment. Later, in a different setting, the gray-haired observer assures Isabel that the place they are discussing is absolutely safe, emphasizing his words with a pointed finger. He muses about using the money he's earned to prepare himself, intending to venture into the tower once he's old enough. Outside, the moonlight filters through a barred window, casting long shadows across the room. A barred window allows a sliver of light to pierce the gloom, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, a soft splash echoing in the quiet. Meanwhile, within a steaming bath, Sonia submerges herself, the water gently lapping around her. Her hand rises from the surface, a faint splash accompanying the movement. Her gaze is distant, lost in thought as the steam curls around her face. Elsewhere, a basket overflows with freshly baked bread and other provisions, ready for a meal. In a bustling common room, the bald man serves a tray of meat, while Isabel and the bearded master look on, a soft clatter of dishes filling the air. He places the food before them, the sounds of the tavern continuing around the trio. Now dressed, Sonia ascends a wooden staircase, glancing back over her shoulder as a faint splash echoes from below. Isabel, already seated at a table with the gray-haired man, remarks on Frey's late arrival, having already begun her meal. Fry approaches, his face visibly flushed and troubled, prompting the gray-haired man to question his well-being, and Isabel to urge him to sit. Fry, finally taking a seat, reveals he had been searching for them, unaware they would be there. Suddenly, a foot presses down, and he collapses, caught by the gray-haired man as Isabel watches in alarm. His face contorted in distress, while the gray-haired man looks on with deep concern. Even after all this time, he still wonders, "Do you have so many eyes?" Meanwhile, Sonia stands before the gray-haired man, a subtle tension in the air as she gestures with a small, crumpled paper, while he simply observes her. A frustrated sigh escapes her lips, her brow furrowed with concern. She then remarks that they look cool. Pointing a finger, she questions if there are any traces of effort involved. A faint blush spreads across her cheeks, her expression softening slightly. Isabel, listening intently nearby, suddenly realizes something, thinking, now that I think about it. Sonia then asks the gray-haired man if they were headed to the capital and if that was their final destination, while he confirms their journey, asking if they were indeed going to the capital. With a finality in his voice, the gray-haired man declares, "The job is done." As both Sonia and Isabel listen, their expressions thoughtful. Lucas Troman's thoughts drift to a higher power, a concept he has never praised or applauded. Meanwhile, the gray-haired man exclaims in surprise, "The fiancée? The daughter of the Aquarius house?" Sonia, her expression unreadable, simply listens. An older, bearded man then asks if they are acquainted with Lord Pruin. Isabel confirms, explaining that Fry and Lord Pruin were trainee friends from the same academy, and they had heard about the engagement from him. The revelation hangs in the air, as Sonia processes the news that she is Frey's fiancée. Her eyes widen slightly, a flicker of emotion crossing her face. The gray-haired man closes his eyes, a thoughtful expression settling upon him. Outside, under the full moon, a voice calls out, "You know." A somber sky hangs heavy over the land, cloaked in deep, bruised hues. Below, outside a grand, stone building, David and Isabel stand with a distinguished gray-haired man, engaged in conversation. David offers a polite farewell to Isabel, hoping the remainder of her journey will be peaceful. The gray-haired man then turns his attention to Fry, suggesting they speak once his business is concluded. He extends an invitation, asking if Fry would consider visiting the June house. Isabel watches, a subtle expression of curiosity on her face. The gray-haired man waits patiently for a response, his gaze steady. Frey's voice finally comes, a casual agreement to the visit, as Isabel looks on with a slight smile. A gentle smile graces Isabel's face as she offers a final promise, assuring him she will be waiting. Meanwhile, deep within the forest, the conversation continues, with one of them musing about someone of high lineage like Lord Pruin June, looking to. Lucas confirms the thought, as he and Isabel walk through the rustling undergrowth. She then speculates that the Peruan brat must have used up all his luck just to gain her favor, before correcting herself with a thoughtful, "Actually." She clarifies that she wasn't referring to Fry, but to Sonia, the eldest daughter of the prominent Aquarium Night House, wondering aloud how someone could be so dense. As they continue their journey, the path ahead remains shrouded in mystery, and that's where their next challenge awaits. The imposing entrance to Schweitzer's dungeon looms before them. As Isabel and Lucas Troman approach the formidable structure, a gasp escapes Isabel's lips, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and trepidation. This place, known as the Drake Mountain, truly lives up to its fearsome reputation, its jagged peaks piercing the stormy sky. And within its depths, a colossal winged beast soars. The monster at the very top of the food chain, simply known as the Drake. Isabel continues to gaze forward, her expression still etched with concern. Turning to Lucas, she asks if he truly intends to fight such creatures, to which he muses how pleasant it would be if that were the case. His hand clenches into a tight fist, a silent testament to his resolve. He surveys the vast, desolate expanse of Drake Mountain, a place known for its formidable dangers. Lucas acknowledges the sheer scale of the Drake, admitting it's larger than he had anticipated, and remarks that this is a place where anything can happen. Suddenly, Isabel loses her footing, tumbling to the ground with a cry of surprise. Scrambling back up, she gasps in disbelief, having never imagined a drake of such immense proportions. Lucas confirms their location deep within the treacherous Yadama Mountains, a region where the unexpected is the norm. Isabel, overwhelmed, declares it a living hell, then turns to him, demanding to know his intentions. Without a word, Lucas extends a hand, and a shimmering, azure portal of magical energy begins to coalesce before them. Before it can fully form, a colossal, unseen force violently impacts the nascent barrier, shattering it with a deafening crack. The impact sends Lucas Troman reeling backward, a monstrous, scaled claw having struck him with devastating force. He lunges forward with a sudden burst of speed, dragging Isabel along with him, away from the unseen danger. Confused and alarmed by his abrupt actions, she demands to know why he would do such a thing. But before she can finish, an invisible force slams into him, sending him hurtling backward towards a monstrous, red-skinned figure. He can only gasp, "Do that." Her eyes widen in terror as she recognizes the creature, crying out, "An ogre." Still reeling from the impact, he mutters in frustration, "He could have just told me about it instead of doing that." The creature looms, its bloodshot red skin and 3 eyes a terrifying sight, a palpable thrumming emanating from its massive form. It is not merely an ogre, but something far more twisted, a mutant. He reflects on the master's words, noting that mutants truly do appear everywhere in these mountains. The monstrous ogre lets out a guttural roar, its third eye glowing ominously. It charges forward with terrifying speed, closing the distance to Isabel. Isabel, however, is already channeling her power, a vibrant orange aura flaring around her. A concentrated burst of fire ignites in her hands. Her eyes glow with fierce determination as the energy swirls around her. She unleashes a fiery projectile, shouting a command. The attack slams into the ogre, erupting in a blinding explosion of light and heat. Lucas watches the powerful display, a quiet ho, escaping him as he acknowledges her significant growth and strength. A massive explosion of orange and yellow energy billows outward, the lingering aftermath of a powerful magical strike. Within the dissipating smoke, a distinct purple core of energy pulses, indicating a protected area at the heart of the blast. The magical impact continues to reverberate, sending shockwaves across the desolate landscape. Yet, through it all, the massive red-skinned ogre stands firm, completely unfazed by the direct hit. Watching the scene unfold, Isabel clenches her fists in frustration, realizing her attacks were utterly ineffective. Beside her, Lucas offers a grim assessment, explaining that the ogre likely gained a resistance to magic when it evolved. Isabel turns to him, seeking guidance, but he simply challenges her to come up with a solution herself. As Lucas ponders, blue lightning crackles into existence, signaling the initiation of a new magical endeavor. The energy coalesces, forming a complex, shimmering magical array. Having prepared his new spell, Lucas unleashes a devastating wave of power, shattering the very ground around him into countless crystalline fragments.